Imagine a high schooler so absurdly powerful that even the Demon King shakes in fear at the mention of his name. Wang Ling seems like your typical unremarkable student, but beneath his calm and indifferent exterior lies a strength so immense that it turns even the simplest tasks into potential disasters. Whether he's accidentally outclassing his peers or breaking through unbreakable limits without even trying, Wang Ling's quiet life is constantly threatened by his unmatched abilities. As the world begins to take notice, this reluctant powerhouse must find a way to stay under the radar, or risk becoming the center of attention in the most chaotic way imaginable. It is the year 4386 on the cultivation calendar in Huaxiu City. The city is in an era of scientific cultivation where people practice cultivation and enjoy the convenience of cultivation technology. The city remains peaceful and prosperous until a level 5 magic frog appears in the Songhai region. The magic squad gets deployed to defeat it, but even with their intensive attacks, it is difficult to defeat the magic frog. An individual in the magic squad, Zhuo Yi, single-handedly kills the monster after saving a little boy loitering in the street from getting crushed by it. Many cultivation factions erected a statue for him, while the later generation called him the hero of Huaxiu. It is the first day of the new school year in Faction 60. The young boy Zhuo Yi saved resumes school as a freshman and walks into the school. He is more grown, and the records say he has a low force value. Two male seniors approach him and try to bully him into giving them money to protect him, but they get attacked in the process. The legendary daughter of the Flower Fruit Water Curtain group, another fresh student, defends him and admonishes them for riding a freshman because he has a lower force value. She introduces herself to the young boy as Sun Rong and stretches her hand towards him, assuring him she will protect him. But instead of a handshake, the boy gives her a 10-yen note to thank her before leaving. To everyone's surprise, Zhuo Yi appears in a hologram to the fresh students and welcomes them to his alma mater. He announces that they will be having a mysterious test on their spiritual force level to determine what class they will go to. The best students will be in class elite, while those with less than average scores will be in class ordinary. The first student goes in and gets scared when he sees the spiritual force incarnation of the magic frog that attacked the city 10 years ago. The test requires them to summon up their forces and hit the frog on its head. The test continues, and the students show their prowess in the task while some fail. Suddenly, the magic frog talks to himself about how stupid the students are. He says the school uses him as the target for the test every year, but they don't know he absorbs their spiritual force. The examiner calls Sun Rong, who has been observing the moves of the other students and the force value she needs to apply to take her test. She walks in, and some girls mention that she could go to any other school with her force value, but they wonder why she chose the school. Some other students talk mildly about her rich status and they wish to be like her. The magic frog says he needs just a little more force to be strong enough to break the seal. When he sees Sun Rong, he says she has a high force value, and he urges her to come and hit him when she apologizes in advance. Sun Rong hits the magic frog, and she attains a force value of 2091 compared to the others in the elite class who didn't obtain as much as 1,000 but above 500 force values. The students hail her strength, and they call her a goddess. The young boy, whose name is Wang Ling, steps forward toward the test room, and Sun Rong recognizes him as the boy she saved. The other students say he is so weak, and he talks to himself, saying a value of 400 will make him enter the class ordinary. As he walks in, the magic frog recognizes him as the person who defeated him 10 years ago. The magic frog recalls the experience after Zhuo Yi saved Wang and attempted to attack him. He pushed Zhuo Yi in a bid to absorb his spiritual frog, but Wang appeared and defeated him. Wang, in the present time, contains his force value to the minimum to help his low-value pretense. He hits the frog and it displaces from its location instantly. With the screens blank from the effect of the hit, everyone wonders what is happening. The screen appears again, showing Wang with an unlimited force value and the frog dead before him. One of the students, in disbelief, tells his friend that Sun Rong has beaten the vitality from the frog, so Wang had to deal with only a little left. Wang discovers the frog did not die, but its remaining spiritual force entered a spiritual body before escaping. The examiner runs into the test room and cries over the frog's death. He informs Wang he is in class elite. They resume lectures, and their instructor teaches them the concept of summoning spiritual beasts. She indulges everyone to summon spiritual beasts. A student starts, summoning a plastic staff instead of a dragon. Another student summons a replica of the girl's skirt. Sun Rong summons a spiritual dog, and everyone clamors over her, but she scolds herself for being unable to summon a spiritual beast. The instructor urges Wang, who is the only student left, to summon something. He summons the magic frog, which baffles everyone. The instructor tries to strike the magic frog with spiritual force, but it transforms into a cute dog instead. The students, including Sun Rong, admire the dog while Wang walks away. The scene commences with a flashback to the day of Wang Ling's birth. The operating room was in chaos after he was born. The nurse announced to his father that he crawled out of his mother's stomach himself, and his father fainted when Wang walked up to him. The advent of his life began after some months when his parents purchased a limited edition dragon slithering sword for him. His father happily mentioned spending his half-year savings to purchase the sword, while his mom excitedly admitted to searching the internet for 3 nights without rest. Wang has mind-reading abilities, so he could read his father's mind, saying he had always wanted the sword, and he got an excuse to purchase it, while his mother confessed to buying a perfect counterfeit, and the money should have been saved. His father offered him the sword and urged him to hold it, but Wang, knowing the extent of his spiritual force, looked for possible reasons to decline. He was aware of the argument that would ensue between his parents if the sword broke in his hands, so he decided to release the force of origin, his urine, that had been accumulating inside him. Wang wet the bed, which distracted his parents from the sword conversation, and he claims he saved the marriage. This action made him figure out his first philosophy of life. During the attack of the magic frog 10 years back when Wang Ling was 6, his parents saw him when he defeated the monsters, and it was beyond their cognition. They unanimously agreed to keep a low profile for his cause while his father researched ways to contain his spiritual force. He got a temporary solution and managed to implement it before Wang Ling went to primary school. Present day, Wang has dinner with his mother, and his spiritual force breaks the plate. His mother instantly gives him a gold pill to help him supplement the effect of the amulet, which according to her has unstable effects. His father urges him to be patient and assures him the new version of the amulets is almost complete, and he will get it within a year. His mother complains, saying he has been repeating the same words for over a decade. Wang leaves them knowing they are about to commence their routine argument. Mr. Wang goes to meet his wife to explain better about the amulet. She tells him she would not be bothered if their son was not involved, and she reminds him of the stress they have been through with his spiritual force. She says the pills he is taking are just lower power pills that reduce his spiritual force, but she wants him to live an ordinary life. Wang Ling has sensed his parents' trouble and effort over the past decade, but he just discovers this information about the pills, so he decides to stay low-key until the amulet is complete. He arrives at school the next day to see Chen Chao and Sun Rong running campaigns for class president. He calls the scene trouble that he should avoid. He spots a store selling dry noodles and walks up to it. A man pays for all the goods and declares them free for fresh students. The students jubilate until he asks them to vote for Sun Rong, and they walk away. Chen Chao and his friend appear at the noodle shop to criticize Sun Rong for cheating. Sun Rong appears and explains that she is just demonstrating her capabilities, so those who believe in her will vote for her naturally. Chen Chao talks to her rudely, still in disagreement with her tactics. Wang Ling cuts them short and informs her he will give her 5 votees if she gives him 5 packs of dry noodles, which she accepts. She uses the opportunity to influence other students and her attempt to use gifts to seduce them into liking and voting for her works. She taps her hand and says the seduction spell. Wang gives her the gold pill his mother gave him as a means of gratitude because he feels indebted to her. While in class, the instructor teaches them about the art of seduction. He explains that the art involves incantation with hand seals to project one's spiritual force onto others, which turns them into fans. He tells them the story of an immortal who passed on the seduction spell to his 3,000 followers and added the condition of giving gifts so that a spiritual force field would spread around after they cast the spell. Everyone who has taken the gifts would relax their mind guards, and a sign will be on their heads that they can't see. Sun Rong realizes the instructor has caught on to her trick, and Wang Ling discovers her motive at the shop. Wang sees her staring at him and wonders why she is trying to use the spell on him when he has returned her favor. He asks her about the gold pill, and she shows him. He uses sign language to thank her for the dry noodles, but she reads him asking her to eat the gold pill. She eats it, thinking it will help her boost her superpowers, but instead, her powers weaken, and the spell on her classmates weakens. The instructor explains that only a man of great power can release the spell, or the lack of spiritual force will end the seduction. He calls Sun Rong out to demonstrate the spell, but she slips on the way, and Wang defends her from falling. The instructor asks Wang to say the spell instead. He says it, and the seduction spell wears off from everyone completely. The instructor announces it is time for the election, and Chen Chao wins afterward. The instructor, while in his office, marvels at Wang's strength. Sun Rong wonders why Wang helped her when he had intentions to hurt her. The fresh students arrive at school with different types of furnaces for their pill refining class. Chen Chao brings his family's copper cauldron, and he tells his friend Guo Hao it is capable of refining level 9 golden pills. Sunrong arrives with her pool of bodyguards. Chen Chao tries to greet her, but she shuns him and calls out to Wang Ling. Wang notices the seduction spell sign on her head. He reaches up to destroy the spell, which surprises everyone around them. He leaves her, and Sunrong falls to the ground, questioning what is happening. The teacher explains the process of making basic vitality pills to them, which involves several processes. Go Hao talks about everyone's furnace. He says the Chen family's cauldron was molded for refining large quantities of pills, so it will be hard to control the heating time for smaller quantities. He complains about Sun Rong using her family's refining machine. He is shocked to see Wang using a microwave machine as his refining furnace. He shows off his magic furnace after mixing the ingredients in the Yangqing pot. The other student's attention diverts to the shiny glow from his furnace. He mentions the furnace's extraordinary features, such as the built-in temperature control, and a display of time and position. Suddenly, Chen's big cauldron explodes, and it gets destroyed. The teacher scolds him and says refining a pill is not about enthusiasm and vigor, which he has been exerting, but attention and patience. He runs out of the practical room in tears and fears what his father will do. The teacher informs them the pill will be ready in 7 hours, so they can leave and return at the stipulated time. The spiritual beast Wang summoned wanders around the practical class, and he spots Guo Hao's antique furnace. The beast intends to eat it, saying he has not eaten any spiritual pet for a long time. He recalls his experience eating weaker things as a frog, which helped him evolve into a demon king, and if he starts again, he will rise to a better form. He opens his mouth to swallow the furnace, but Wang interrupts him saying he knew he was up to something, and he came just in time. The beast jumps out through the window, and Wang follows him. He jumps to the 4th floor, and mocks Wang for jumping directly to the ground floor. He turns back to leave, but he gets shocked to see Wang standing behind him, and Wang kicks him off angrily. Chen Chao runs endlessly around the school track, remembering his promise to his father not to damage the cauldron and coming home as the first position in the pill refining. He gets weak from running excessively, and his mind gets infected by the mind devil. He sees himself as an outcast among the students and an unfit person for Sunrong. Wang washes the furnace to get rid of the beast's stain. He steps out of the restroom to see Guo Hao surprisingly. Guo Hao points a plastic gun at him, and Wang explains what occurred. But Guo finds it difficult to believe. He angrily shoots his plastic gun, which contains a pentatoxic potion, at Wang. But he dodges it, and it enters Chen Chao's mouth. Chen Chao was running wild upstairs to meet Sun Rong, but he faints abruptly after ingesting the potion. Wang says the effect is not serious and tries to purify him, but Guo Hao stops him ignorantly. He urges Wang to take him to the pill refining room with him. In the refining room, Guo kneels beside Chen and regrets his actions. He says the potion can induce patches of rashes on the skin, but Chen Chao swallowed it, which is worse, and if they don't remove the toxin in 4 hours, he'll be in great danger. Wang tries to tell him about the purification spell, but Guo Hao cuts him short, and he implores Wang's help to create a pill in exchange for him ignoring the furnace incident. Wang agrees with him and looks for the ingredients for him. Guo Hao mixes them and leaves the pill to heat. He sits them and suddenly realizes the instructor and his colleagues will return in 2 hours. He paces up and down, thinking hard for a solution and lamenting. The magic beast walks in and blows a force to the furnace. Guo Hao spots him and angrily strikes him. Guo Hao gets to the furnace to discover it is already in the preheating stage. Wang grabs the beast, and Guo expends his spiritual force on the furnace, which makes it heat faster. The beast explains that its spiritual force is about controlling timelines. They both use his force to finish producing the pills. Guo tests one of the pills on the beast, and it works, so he proceeds to use it on Chen, saying he will be up at the end of the day. He suddenly hears the instructors and other students' footsteps, which causes him to freak out. Wang offers to help him clear the place, while Guo decides to stall the instructor at the door. Guo can't stall the inspector for long, and she enters almost immediately, but Guo is surprised to see everywhere cleared. The instructor checks his furnace and finds his golden pill already formed. She commends him and gives him a good mark, while Wang's pill looks burnt, and she admonishes him. Guo calls Wang a true friend, thinking he exchanged their pills and gave him the golden one. But in the real sense, Guo's gold pill formed in his treasured furnace because Wang didn't take it out, and Wang's pill got ruined because he used a microwave. Chen eventually wakes up and Guo lies that they found him on the ground, exhausted. They show him his copper cauldron, which they repaired for him, and he cries intensely while apologizing to Wang. After lectures, Sunrong walks up to Wang's seat in the class, and she asks him to go on a date with her, which gets him speechless. Chen laments and angrily questions why she would choose him. 2 assassins target Sunrong while she stands beside the window in an attempt to shoot her. The leader confirms the target and reports to their boss, who gives them the order to shoot, but the main sniper feels an unknown pressure when he sees Wang's eyes staring at him. He loses the target, Sunrong when the instructor comes in to call Wang out, and she follows him. Wang, while still in the class, responded yes to the teacher's call, but Sunrong thought he gave her a response, and he accepted her proposal to date him. The sniper boss disperses them, and the leader informs the main sniper there is a tough personality on campus, so they must retreat. The magic beast spots them while they leave. The news of Wang, popularly called the Force Value 5 student, and Sunrong spread across the school's social media. The teacher brings Wang into the office of Zhuo Yi, who is now the joint honorary master immortal of the school league. The teacher excuses them, and Zhuo Yi speaks with Wang. He confirms he was the little boy who kicked the magic frog during the attack, but people assumed he was the one, so they named him the hero before he could give a statement. Zhuo Yi kneels before him, saying he has been searching for him to be his master. Wang instantly uses 50% of the trick of forgetting spell on him to make him forget the incident while avoiding putting him in a vegetative state with 100% spell. He leaves the room and apologizes to his instructor for bothering him. The magic beast walks up to Wang and informs him about the assassins that came to the school. Wang wakes up from a dream where Sunrong tried to wake him to get prepared for the date. He brushes his teeth and moves to the window to open the curtains. Wang looks outside and shockingly sees Sunrong with her bodyguards waiting for him. He goes downstairs for breakfast, and his parents urge him to hasten up to prevent Sunrong from waiting too long for him. Their excitement about his date surprises him because he expects them to impose a studying spree on him. His parents reminisce on their first date with each other. They urge him to have fun and return late if he wishes to. Wang, who has never been in this position, wishes the assassins the magic beast mentioned would show up. While they drive off, the assassins report another failed attempt to their boss, and she instructs them to follow them as their last chance. Sunrong takes Wang to a place called the Heavenly Paradise, her family's real estate project of combining commerce with recreation. Wang questions why nobody is there, and Sunrong teases him with a fake story. She tells him her grandfather built it specifically for her, and it is her first time visiting because she told him she would come with her love. Wang reacts speechlessly to her story, and she laughs it off, saying she is kidding, and the workers cleared the whole place for their sake. They arrive at the art buildings, and the guide explains the concept of the artworks to them. During the process, the two assassins appear, and the sniper shoots at Sunrong, but Wang stops it with his mouth and deflects it back to the sniper, which propels him into the sky. He clears everyone's memory of the incident, and they continue their tour. While they tour around, the assassins attack them consistently, and he continues defending Sunrong and making everyone forget. Sunrong suggests they ride the Ferris wheel, while the staff set up fireworks. The assassins jump right after them, and Zhuo Yi, who tracked them to the park, says his master is in trouble. The fireworks set off, and the assassins use the opportunity to attack them at a very close range. The assassins say they have been busy all night, but no one noticed them. Sunrong questions if they are Shadow Faction, and they affirm without contemplating. Their boss screams at them from the phone and informs them that is her plan to make them reveal their identity, which they have fallen for. Sunrong stands up and implores them to free Wang since she is their target. They jest at her for calling him a friend, not her boyfriend, but they assure her they only hurt their target. She begs Wang not to try anything foolish, and she implores him to leave the wheel. Wang stands from the chair and sends them flying into the sky, where he blasts them with fire afterward. Zhuo Yi kneels and worships Wang's strength, calling him amazing. He uses his 100% trick of promise for the first time with Sunrong to prevent her from telling his secrets while she remembers the incident. The Shadow Faction boss eliminates one of her staff for slacking off on getting information about the strong force that murdered her men and protected the girl. She says their clients are unhappy, and they have been at the top of the trade over the past 100 years. But the incident is a big humiliation for them. She issues a shadow kill order for Sunrong. Wang arrives at school the next day, and Sunrong calls out to him. He meets Chen and Guo, who tease him for going on a date with Sunrong. Sunrong walks up to them, but her guards surround them instantly, and Guo asks if they did something wrong. Their instructor walks in and informs Sunrong the assassins who tried to kill her the previous night are still active, so she will be under special protection. Sunrong tells him she was having fun at the Heavenly Paradise, and they didn't meet assassins. Wang confirms the trick of promise is effective, so he feels relieved about the situation. Zhuo Yi walks in and announces he saw the assassins first and defeated them. Wang recalls using the 50% trick of forgetting the previous night to make him admit to saving her. Zhuo Yi tells them their action has enraged the Shadow Faction, and he shows them their Shadow Kill Order placard. Sunrong is surprised someone is trying to get her killed. Zhuo Yi introduces the special security precautions he has set up. He sets the security guards around the school compound, while he arranges the cruise troop, bodyguards sent by her dad, in the school corridors. He informs Sunrong she will stay in their instructor, Mr. Wang Zukang's office, to avoid bothering other students. He adds that he deployed a force field in the room, making it secure against attack. He also invited the 7-star squad to cover the defense and surveillance in the air against distant sniper or aerial attacks. The Shadow Faction boss mocks them for calling the guards their tightest security. Xu Feng, the third member of the Hammer team from the Shadow Faction, infiltrates the building and bypasses the guards by quietly taking them out. He informs his partner, Xu Ying, that he has cleared the schoolyard. Zhuo Yi calls for more backup while Mr. Wang Zukang assures the students nobody will be hurt. The students text on the class elite group chat. Chen Chao and Guo Hao notify the other students about their current situation. One of the students comments that she is surprised that Wang, the Force 5 value student, is still alive, and Sun Rong replies that she will protect him. Mr. Wang Zukang informs them to keep the situation a secret. Zhuo Yi calls the cruise troops in the corridors to inform them the security guards outside are out, so they must be on guard. The leader assures him they are Golden Pill Phase elites and can't be easily defeated. Immediately after he stops talking, Xu Ying, the second member of the Hammer team, discharges a toxic gas into the air and blasts the cruise troops out. Xu Feng tells him they are supposed to be on a stealth mission, but the armored cruisers are running towards him because of the havoc he created. Xu Ying leaves him to deal with it and proceeds forward, but a barrier repels him, which bounces him back. He comes face to face with Wang Zukang. The Shadow Faction boss informs Xu Jian, the leader of the Hammer team, about the people in the office. Xu Jian assures her that he will sort it out. He says he has been accumulating his spiritual force on the rooftop and has not been seen by the 7-star squad because of his trick of invisibility force. He calls Xu Ying and Xu Feng's attack a diversion, and once he completes accumulating the spiritual force in his large hammer, he will smash the office to pieces. Wang Ling wins a gift pack of crispy noodles to be delivered to the school's rooftop in a drone. Mr. Wang blocks all the attacks from Xu Ying, but he eventually runs free when he diffuses poisonous gas into Mr. Wang's face. He runs towards the office where the students and Zhuo Yi are, but he hits his head on the door abruptly when Wang opens the door to go out and pick up his delivery. Mr. Wang approaches him, and he screams in pain. Xu Jian, detecting Xu Ying is down, calls Xu Feng for a status report. Xu Feng halts when he suddenly sees the magic beast in his cute dog form. He plays with it, but the magic beast bites him, absorbing his spiritual force and life essence. Xu Jian realizes he is the last man standing on his team. He confidently says he will destroy them when his spiritual force is full. Wang appears on the rooftop and says a word to Xu Jiang, which surprises him. He receives his package after the 7-star squad searches through it. When Wang returns, Xu Jiang tells himself Wang was talking about his package. But Wang informs him he was referring to him, to Xu Jiang's surprise. He notifies Xu Jiang that their assassination plan has failed. Xu Jiang attempts to strike Wang with his hammer, but Wang, while in his position, attacks him back, creating a very high-energy reaction in the sky. Xu Jiang falls while questioning how Wang can have such a great spiritual force. Zhuo Yi appears on the rooftop after detecting the reactions, and he sees Wang dragging the assassin. Wang instantly uses the trick of forgetting him again and tells Zhuo Yi to say he killed the assassin. They arrest the assassins, and the students run up to Zhuo to hail him for defeating the assassin with his magic weapon, but they find Wang in his hand with blood dripping from his mouth. Sun Rong, oblivious to what occurred, worried deeply about him, so she called the best medical experts and constructed a private healing cabin. The cabin automatically showers him with medicines that boost his vitality and spirit and connect the meridians every hour. Wang's mother brings his breakfast to his room, and he unlocks the cabin to sit up. She urges him to stop playing sick since it has been 10 days, and he should inform his friend he has recovered so he can resume back to school. The doorbell rings, and Wang's father opens the door to see Wang's friends. He announces to his wife, and they both freak out. Sun Rong, Chen Chao, and Guo Hao arrive in his room with recovery gifts. They greet Wang's mother with due courtesy, and they inform her they are there on behalf of the school. She leaves them to prepare snacks and tea for them. Guo Hao shows Wang his new parrot, and Wang introspectively calls it ugly. Sun Rong asks Wang if he finds it adorable, while Chen says it resembles Wang, and he changes his expression. Wang's mother comes in, bearing a tray of snacks and tea for them. She thanks Sun Rong for caring for Wang in school, and Sun Rong grabs the opportunity to be closer to her. Sun Rong gives her the ultimate elixirs produced by her family, some nutrition pills, and a chicken blood tonic injection, all for Wang's full recovery. Wang's mother blushes at the gifts, and she leaves them. She instructs Wang to entertain them and be nice to Sun Rong. Sun Rong pushes the magic beast from Wang's side and kneels beside him. She asks how how he is feeling and tells him she was worried when she saw him lying on the floor on the day of the incident. Wang replies that he feels much better. Chen Chao adds that Sunrong was worried to the extent she called her family chopper to pick him up from the rooftop. Sunrong proposes giving him the chicken blood tonic injection combined with the spiritual power of perfusion to help him recover. Chen Chao reminds Sunrong about the wristband Mr. Wang Zukang gave them in school, instructing him to give Wang because everyone must take the annual spiritual power test. Sunrong informs him he doesn't have to take it because the test requires a lot of vital spirits. Guo Hao urges her to give him the injection so he will feel better. Wang, fearing the effect of the injection, declines the offer and explains he feels better enough to go to school. They sit around a table, and Chen Chao goes first. He summons his force, which appears and glows very clearly. He records his force value as 600. Guo Hao says it is the same as the entrance test and wonders why they must retake it. Chen explains that Guo Hao is wrong because the force grows outside the body. The summoner needs to concentrate on the spiritual power and visualize it outside the body. He adds that it is something other than what an ordinary commoner can do because it takes persistent practice. Countless students all over the country are trying to leap this bar while Wang Ling simply ignores it. Students from Faction 59 also take their power test. Tang Jinzei, the chairman of the Faction 60, takes his test and attains the first position on the rank board. His faction members hail him. Sunrong takes her test, and she gets the second position on the rank board, which surprises the Faction 59 members. They urge Wang to take his test, and he agrees, hoping he will sneak through. Wang summons his force, despite applying little pressure, and they all feel the effect. He relocates his power sphere outside space, hoping it will not reflect, but the rank board shows his name on top of the list, while his power value is null. The Faction 59 questions what is happening and who he is. The chairman thinks it is a bug in the system. Chen Chao teases him, saying he should show his true power as the top scorer in the country. Chen Chao and Guo Hao laugh at him while Sunrong stares at him skeptically. They bid him farewell, and Wang overhears Guo Hao, saying he will hack the system and change his score. Later that night, he meets Guo Hao to help him change his score to a lower one. Guo Hao struggles with the password but eventually logs into the Cultivation Power Show test site. Tang Jingze and his tech assistant also log into the site to detect Wang's true score, but they get disappointed to find no value on his profile. Guo Hao remembers Tang as a proud student, so he tries to ridicule him. He sets up a rank for his bird, as the highest rank after Wang Ling. The two instructors of the class elite discuss the result of the National Cultivation School Power Show test. Mr. Wang shows Ms. Pan the results, and she looks at it in shock. She questions how Wang Ling attained the first position despite being a below-average student in class. She looks through the tab and realizes they will be competing with Faction 59 students, who are the best, according to her. Mr. Wang explains they have 2 students in the top 10, and they raise their scores above average. Ms. Pan reminds him about their 24 matches with Faction 59, where they had 23 losses and 1 draw. The draw happened because of Zhuo Yi's genius nature. Zhuo Yi informs them the competition will be interesting, and Mr. Wang affirms. Ms. Pan says they are too calm about the situation. Students of the Songhai Faction 60 train intensely for the National Power Sword competition, and the news broadcasts them. The newscaster talks about the students' capabilities being on par with professional standards. Tang Jingze, whom Guo Hao has indirectly named Tang Birdie 2, grants the news broadcaster the audience to hear his opinion. He talks about the students' vigorous spirit and their training. The broadcaster asks about his rivals from Faction 60. He mentions that he is looking forward to Sunrong's family performance at the sword competition since she got a high score and Wang Ling's immortal practice. He walks away from the scene and slurps his food, questioning who he is. Ms. Pan barges into Mr. Wang's office to argue about their choices for the sword competition. She questions why only level 1 students are to compete in the sword competition, leaving the higher levels out. Zhuo Yi informs her they have no choice because the higher levels don't have force values greater than 1000. Ms. Pan agrees that Sunrong is a genius, but she is uncertain about the other 3 candidates. Zhuo Yi cuts her short to tell her he is confident in her teachings while tapping her shoulder. Ms. Pan blushes at his touch, but she confesses she has been teaching the students theories during their bodybuilding classes, which makes Zhuo Yi dejected. She explains that the sword competition requires 5 candidates, and they only have just 4. Mr. Wang informs her he has discussed it with Zhuo Yi, and he shows her the magic beast as their 3rd candidate. Ms. Pan screams in disapproval, but Mr. Wang urges her not to discriminate. Zhuo Yi reminds her about the faction that won in the year 3426 that they had a fox in their team. Ms. Pan explains that the 9-tailed fox was an exchange student from the spiritual world, and the fox shapeshifted into a girl. Zhuo Yi says he has used the trick of transformation on the magic beast, and it transforms into a human form with the head of a demon king. They all scream, and Zhuo Yi returns it to its original shape, claiming there are no rules against putting an animal in the team. Ms. Pan, still in disapproval, says the beast is not qualified to compete since it didn't participate in the power show test, but they do a makeup test for the beast, which ranks higher than Tang Jingza. Zhuo Yi finalizes their decision, and Mr. Wang agrees to message the student quietly. Ms. Pan calls their act shameful, but Zhuo says they intend to keep their strategy a secret. Tang Jingza's faction colleagues bug him after seeing the new score rank. Later that night, Mr. Wang sends a message to Wang Ling, Sun Rong, Chen Chao, and Go Hao about their qualification for the sword competition. He informs them to prepare their spiritual sword in 3 days. Chen Chao, excited about the news, informs his father, who gives him a spiritual sword called Li Chao and says he is very proud of him. Chen Chao burst into tears after finally hearing his father's words of encouragement. Chen Chao sends a picture of his spiritual sword to the WeChat group Mr. Wang created, and Mr. Wang commends him for getting it quickly. He asks the other members, including the magic beast, for their magic swords. Go Hao sends his spiritual sword as a blade. The magic beast shows them his sword to their surprise, while Sun Rong shows them their sword spirit forged by her family. Sun Rong claims they forged 13 others in case the sword gets ruined in battle. Mr. Wang gives them 18 tips for making the sword spirit. They ask Wang Ling, who refused to send his spiritual sword, if he has one, and he affirms. Tang Jingze speaks with his instructor, Ms. Ji, saying he has prepared his fellow team members on the list for the competition and has instructed them to hand in their spiritual swords for proper conditioning. Ms. Z checks the list and sees only 4 candidates. She notifies him about it, and Tang explains that the last candidate is the man. She expresses her shock after realizing what he means and tells him he may face consequences. Tang says he cannot afford to lose, so he is relying on the power of the man. She accepts his request and offers to help out. On his way out, Tang says he cannot allow Faction 60 to win over them, and Ms. Ji assures him they cannot win when they have the man. Tang's partner visits He Bufeng, the man Tang spoke about, to inform him about their intention to use him for their sword competition. He Bufeng, while attacking a man, asks if the council is aware of their interest, and she affirms. He looks forward to seeing the man who made Ms. Z accept him into the competition. Wang stares at his phone while contemplating his choice for the competition. He fears showing his strength at the competition, but after seeing his friends' and instructors' enthusiasm towards it, Wang decides to participate, so he affirms their question about his sword. He wonders if showing his sword would not be a problem. He leaves his room and walks downstairs to his parents discussing skincare. He spots the news on the television announcing an explosion that occurred at a spiritual force chemical plant. Another news announces that the Cultivation Council's armored cruise troops surrounded the Shadow Faction's headquarters earlier in the day to arrest the members of the faction and their boss. Zhuo Yi arrives at the crime scene and receives a series of questions from reporters about their safety. Zhuo Yi replies to them, saying he foiled the faction's plans twice in the past, so the current scene is no exception, and he looks forward to meeting their leader. While in her room, the leader views the news and calls Zhuo Yi a fool. Wang Ling asks his parents for his spiritual sword, and they direct him to the storage room. He opens a box, and a young spiritual being approaches from the box, which he closes back instantly when he feels his amulet deteriorating. He receives a text from his friends saying they will be checking out Faction 59 the next day to familiarize themselves with the venue. The next day at school, they observe his fake spiritual sword. Guo Hao and Chen Chao tease him and call the sword a small child's sword, while Sun Rong thinks it is cute. Chen expresses his jealousy at her. The instructors arrive, and they exchange pleasantries. Mr. Wang informs them they will spend 5 nights in the Faction 59, since the challenge is for 5 days. He sees Wang Ling without a bag for the purpose, and he questions him. Chen embarrassingly offers him his underwear, which he rejects. Wang Ling intends to fake his sickness when they arrive at the faction to avoid participating in the competition. Zhuo Yi urges them to enter the bus while an emissary arrives to deliver a message. He informs Mr. Wang he will be taking his leave to attend to an urgent matter. He bids his master farewell while they leave. Zhuo Yi arrives at the cell, and the armored cruise troop affirms that the captive is the Shadow Faction's leader. He walks up to her, but he is shocked when he looks into her eyes to see a ticking bomb. Just immediately, the bomb explodes and the whole building crashes. The Shadow Faction's leader at noon had tailed the school bus transporting the students. She sent a recording for Zhuo Yi, saying she planned the tip about the headquarters for him up till the special serenade she prepared on the bomb blast. She informs him her target is Sun Rong, and no one on the bus can defend her. Wang Ling, while on the bus, struggles with his spiritual young being attached to his sword. Wang reminds him that he promised to stay still. They finally arrive at Faction 59 where they meet Ms. Dai, Tang Jingzi, and other members of the sword competition. Ms. Pan and Ms. Dai were close friends and roommates when they were younger, but are now rivals. Ms. Dai greets them and welcomes Ms. Pan. Ms. Dai sees Sun Rong and teases Ms. Pan about Sun Rong's family helping with their school finances. Ms. Pan returns her teasing, saying Ms. Z had filed for Sun Rong to be in her school. They continue their arguments with Ms. Pan bugging the Faction 59 students and their rugged nature. Surprisingly, Ms. Z sends a spiritual force through Wang Ling's body. She says she used the grand testing trick and just discovered that Wang Ling has a force value of 5, which is very low. She wonders if they have plans to be trounced. Wang Ling, who had been seeking an opportunity to fake his sickness to receive an exemption from the competition, falls on his knees in pretense. Suddenly, his amulet breaks and his spiritual force explodes. He questions his young spiritual being for not informing him earlier, and he replies that he tried to notify him on the bus, but Wang forced him back. The leader of the Shadow faction, who had just arrived in the car, sees the spiritual energy explosion, and she questions if there is a high level around. Wang's parents feel the resonance of the amulet in their residence as well. Ms. Pan and Sun Rong shake Wang Ling, and Ms. Pan asks Ms. Ji if she's certain she only performed the grand testing trick on him. Ms. Ji affirms, saying Wang Ling is a good actor, but Sun Rong refutes her. Ms. Ji asks Tang if he is responsible, and he declines. He points towards He Bufeng, standing above the school, and considers he may be responsible. The Shadow faction's boss receives a call that their attempt to assassinate Zhuo Yi has failed. Zhuo Yi unhooked the seal from the robot's neck before it exploded, and the initial explosion was only a mirage. The boss orders her driver to retreat, saying their target has someone she cares for, so she has a new plan. Wang gets wheeled out on a stretcher by the doctors. Sun Rong tries to follow Wang Ling, but Tang Jingzi stops her on the way. He informs her they went to the same cultivation cram school when they were little, and he introduces himself as the chairman of the student union. Sun Rong shouts at him to get out of her way angrily and tries to punch him, but her attack gets blocked by Tang's assistant, who he introduces as the student union's secretary. Chen and Guo try to defend her, but they get restricted by the other students. Sun Rong says the reason why she decided to fight against Faction 59 is because they are scumbags. Tang tries to assure her that Wang, whom she cares about, will be safe. He stretches his hand out to him, but he catches fire instantly. Ms. Ji instantly stops it, and Tang wonders if Wang set himself up because he didn't do it. Sun Rong brings out her spiritual sword angrily to attack them, thinking Tang is responsible for the fire, but Mr. Wang comes in instantly to stop her. He insists the sword is only for the competition. Ms. Pan instructs Ms. Z to control her students. Ms. Z sends Tang a signal, and he apologizes to Sun Rong immediately. Ms. Z urges them to visit the gym so they can discuss the competition. Tang thinks He Bufeng is responsible for the attack, and he blames him for using such dirty means, but he looks at the brighter side that one of their opponents is incapacitated. In the medical room, the doctors unwound the bandage to discover that Wang had snuck out of it. Wang Ling walks towards the exit gate of the school. He used the trick of flash to light himself up, but his amulet was further damaged. His spiritual force will burst out and induce a calamity in the world if he uses spiritual force a few more times, and his amulet breaks completely. Wang Ling calls his father to explain the situation. His father leaves the house instantly to give him the new amulet while Wang tries to find a way to sneak out of the building. He says the faction is very big after realizing he is lost, but his young spiritual being guards him through a door. Ms. Shi explains the concept of the competition to them. She says the competition would have been held in Faction 60, but there was an attack there a long time ago. She also boasts of their school having a very spacious land. Tang Jingze tries to trigger them by telling them they are incomplete. Sun Rong attacks him, saying that was their aim for making Wang leave them. Chen asks about their fifth member, and He Bufeng arrives with a chaotic entrance. Guo restrains Chen, who wants to attack him without caution, saying he generated a big wave and should not be underestimated. He Bufeng suddenly appears behind Sun Rong and offers her a flower. He says he will help her deal with Tang and his team if she accepts. Ms. Chi angrily asks if he wants to betray them, and he replies that he doesn't care. He adds that the two teams have a huge power difference and Sun Rong's team will be more balanced if he joins her. Chen Chao angrily charges to take his hands off Sun Rong, but he bounces him back with his spiritual pressure according to Gohao. Sun Rong refuses him, and Chen Chao strikes again. He attacks him seriously until he lands on the floor. Chen Chao still relentlessly stands up and chants his father's slogan about Chen's family heritage defending the world's safety, and they step forward when they see injustice. He summons his spiritual energy to attack him, but Bufeng destroys his arms with negative energy. Luckily, Chen falls into Wang Ling's arms, and his hand gets restored immediately to his surprise. Ms. Pan questions what happened, and Mr. Wang explains that Bufeng is a drop-down who practices cold negative energy. and he just used annihilation on Chen. He explains that negative energy is a spiritual force in the opposite direction, and it will produce a huge spiritual energy called annihilation if it collides with a cultivator's spiritual force. Wang places a call to his father to inform him he can't leave the building. Bufeng wonders how Wang restored Chen's hand instantly after using the trick of annihilation on him. Bufeng realizes Wang has an unbelievable power, but can't sense any spiritual force in him. He decides to strike him to confirm his theory. Bufeng punches Wang in the face, and it hits him easily. Wang walks away, and Bufeng concludes he doesn't have any spiritual force. Sun Rong runs up to Wang, and he gives her Bufeng's rose while Bufeng moves in confusion. Miss Shi interrupts them and instructs them to go to their respective preparation rooms since they are complete. The Shadow Faction's leader hangs from the ceiling while watching them. Zhuo Yi, who had been thinking, finally gets a result from his thoughts and commands the troops to follow him to Faction 59. In the faction, his other team members and instructors enter their preparation room, but Wang Ling steps back saying he wants to receive his crispy noodles. The Shadow Faction boss, who had been stalking them, says this is her chance to kidnap Wang. Bufeng suddenly appears behind her, and she lies that she is a student. Bufeng tells her he identifies all the beautiful Faction 59 ladies, but has never seen her, so she is not a student. He asks her to be his girlfriend, and he will help with her desires, but she declines, saying she prefers younger guys. Bufeng angrily talks to her and tells her to stop pretending to be a small girl when she is quite old. The boss strikes him hard, and he falls instantly. He tries to attack her with his negative energy, but she displaces it easily, saying even her old driver is capable of handling the situation. She strikes him, but Wang sees her while she is manhandling Bufeng. The Shadow Faction boss, Zhang Liuying, binds Bufeng and Wang Ling with her immortal binding ropes. She throws them onto the roof and instructs her driver to watch them, especially Bufeng, who can see through her disguise. She walks up to Wang and calls him a big fish because she saw Sun Rong caring for him at the gate. Zhang Liuying tramples on him, oblivious of the extremely dangerous force bomb in Wang that can destroy the world if his negative energy bursts out. Zhang's driver drags Bufeng by his hair, and he screams in pain. Zhang calls Wang a useless person with just a force value of 5. Wang's spiritual being wakes and questions why he is bound while Zhang keeps trampling on him and talking down on his capabilities. He informs him the amulet can't hold his spiritual force anymore, and he can only rely on his emotions. The environment changes with wind gusting and the buildings vibrating. His supreme being calls Wang severally to stay calm, but he refuses until he announces that dry crispy noodles are 50% off for the day. Wang regains his consciousness, and Zhang strikes him down, saying he should lower his head. She instructs the driver to watch over them. He agrees to her instruction and presents her with a part of Bufeng's hair. She says she has a better plan instead of her initial plan to disguise herself as a student. The students all gather in the boardroom with their instructors. Ms. Pan accuses Ms. Chi of fixing a student who failed as a freshman in the competition, but Tang Jingzhe defends his instructor. Ms. Chi speaks up and angrily says that Bufeng is better than their dog. Suddenly, Jiang, in Bufeng's form, barges into the room and exclaims that something has happened. He confesses that Wang Ling has been kidnapped. At the rooftop, the driver ties Wang Ling to a cross, while Bufeng sits below the cross ties to it. He tries to persuade and convince the driver to release him, but the driver says only the boss has access to unbind him. He introduces himself to Bufeng as just a driver, and Bufeng asks if the faction is short of staff because he wonders why the driver is on a mission like that. The driver suddenly shows off his spiritual energy, which shocks Bufeng. Wang's young spiritual being informs him the driver has a very strong spiritual force, but he doesn't intend to show it. Zhang, still in Bufeng's form, narrates a fake story for the team where Zhuo Yi and Sun Rong's security guards are present. Zhuo Yi describes the kidnapper as a young, beautiful woman and identifies her as the Shadow Faction's leader. Ms. Pan says they defeated the Shadow Faction in their school a while back, but Ms. Ji stands up defensively to say their school is safe. Guo Hao contends her word, saying they can't call it safe when there is a kidnapping incident. Tang Jingzhe instructs Xiao Bei, the student's union secretary, to detect his spiritual force. She says the response from Wang's spiritual force is weak, so she checks for unknown sources of spiritual force. She detects an unknown force within 5 km nearby, and they recognize the location as the old dormitory. Sun Rong's bodyguard leader instructs the others to keep Sun Rong safe. They wrap her up and move her away. Zhuo Yi says he will send the 7-star faction to check them out, while Sun Rong's bodyguard informs them they must take Sun Rong back now that the Shadow Faction has arrived, because her safety is their priority. Zhuo Yi tries to reconsider his decision, saying they must take precautions. Ms. Gi says they have to rescue each other, or the competition will not hold. Sunrong suddenly appears after beating the other guard who held her. She claims their family has never been cowards, and she doesn't care about the competition or the school's reputation, but her cherished friend is in danger, so she has to help him as the representative of the Flower Fruit group. She commands the team to follow her, and the other members of the faction join them. Ms. Z instructs her students to follow them to observe their performance in a real battle, but she advises them not to get involved unless necessary. At the rooftop, the driver dances, and Bufeng tells Wang to fight back because he knows he has strong powers. He expresses his disappointment when he discovers Wang is sleeping. The driver tries to make Bufeng ingest a poisonous drink, but he hears a loud bang and stares at Wang in shock. Suddenly, Sunrong and her bodyguard team run toward the building, and she instructs them to fly up to the sky. Xiaobei informs Tang Jingzi that Bufeng looks strange, so he should be careful. Tang accepts and urges her to watch his moves. The driver shoots at Sunrong's bodyguard invisibly with wolfberries. He calls them young and unfit to fight him. He decides to show his game, and he summons the cavalry warriors. They charge towards the bodyguard to defeat them, but Sunrong stops them and attacks them. The driver says Sunrong should go to bed early, instead of fighting to defeat them. Wang Ling's father stays outside the school and begs the security to let him in, but they refuse until they see a very bright radiation. Sunrong struggles to fight the cavalry and says her spiritual force may not sustain her flying if she continues. The driver calls her a naive girl because the horseless cavalry power is beyond her capabilities. Sunrong almost gets killed, but suddenly, the scene rewinds to where Wang gives the driver a smirk, and he looks at Wang in shock. The bang creates a hole where Bufeng falls in, and he straps the driver to the cross. Sunrong, with her bodyguards, while coming to defeat the driver, suddenly sees the driver in the sky with Zhuo Yi adjusting the ropes. As usual, Zhuo Yi takes the credit and announces the driver as the culprit. Zhang expresses her anger when she discovers Sunrong is still alive. Tang hugs him all of a sudden and questions why he is unhappy. Wang Ling tells the 7-star member he wants to stay on the roof for a while after the man thanks him for assisting. He sees the hole in the roof and asks questions about it, but Wang lies that the hole had been there before he arrived. His spiritual being, Jinkei, appears and asks if Wang doesn't want them to save Bufeng, but Wang instructs him to stay with Bufeng. Jinkei questions if Wang can participate in the competition without him, and he informs him the competition is over. His friends come around to hug him. The next day, Wang expresses his surprise to see Bufeng after hiding him and the competition still holding. Zhang says it is too late for Wang to be suspicious, while Wang wonders what happened to Jinke. The event instructor announces their rules while Wang decides to participate because his friends saved him. They all connect to the gem field, and they enter. Wang hears his father calling out to him to give him his gem, but he comes in too late. Zhuo Yi appears before Wang's father and greets him specially. Wang's father explains the situation to Zhuo Yi, and he screams in shock. They all arrive in the competition field, and Xiaobei detects their spiritual forces to confirm their locations. She tells Tang she can't detect He Bufeng's spiritual force because it is different from the force in their record, and transmission to him failed. She detects the faction's 60 members' spiritual force, but says Wang's spiritual force is undetectable because it is close to zero and beyond range of detection. Tang does his calculations and discovers that Wang Ling, who is assumed to be the weakest member, is around the altar of woods. One of their team members dashes off to find him, and they sigh at him. The third member asks about Guo Hao, and Tang discards him, saying they should focus on taking the altars. He suddenly appears on a rock where Guo Hao's image has been spying on them and shatters it into pieces. Xiaobei asks if she should go after him, but Tang declines, saying 3 altars are enough to win. He instructs her to find Chen Chao, who is at the altar of metal, while he chases Sunrong at the altar of water, because they have scores to settle while Wang Ling will add to their credits. Guo Hao spots Liang Fei chasing after Wang Ling. He concludes that the Faction 59 team is powerful, and they already destroyed his first stand-in from the 3 stand-ins he purchased at an expensive price before the start of the competition. Guo Hao says Liang Fei, who had just passed him by, seems to be the weakest, so he will charge towards him and save Wang Ling. Chen Chao hears an announcement about Faction 59 seizing the Altar of Earth, giving them a score of 1, while his team has a 0. He rushes towards the altar of metal and asks himself how he would seize it. Chen hears a voice behind him telling him to insert his sword into the socket and wait for 10 minutes. He thanks the voice but suddenly freezes when he realizes what has just happened. Xiaobei greets him and tells him the altar is hers. Chen Chao says his family motto prevents them from fighting women, so he foolishly asks her to make her first 3 moves on him. She accepts his requests and makes her move, then asks Chen Chao to make his. Chen Chao notices that nothing happens, so he asks if she is despising him. Shortly after, she commands him to do it, and he starts punching himself and hitting his head on the floor. Xiaobei explains he got caught in the web of dimensions that captures its prey, invades its nervous system, and produces false neuronal signals to control the body. The instructors watch from a large screen and express their concern while Miss Qi supports the situation, saying that is the sort of cruelty every young man should experience. The magic beast fights with Zhang still in Bufeng's body, devouring his negative energy before he leaves. Liang Feng arrives at the location where Wang is lying down and assumes he is dead, so he proceeds to possess the altar. Wang wakes up from his slumber when he hears the magic beast saying he would be able to break his magic seal when he consumes enough spiritual force from the fighters. Liang Feng sees Wang and tries to attack him, but Guo Hao defends him immediately. They strike each other and fight, while Wang just stands in between watching them. Sun Rong stands at the altar and tries to possess it. She says the opposite faction already has 2 altars in their possession, so she has to be swift. She suddenly receives an attack signal, and she blocks it off. Her spiritual being appears, and Tang Jingzi's spiritual being appears as well. He talks about the long-lasting relationship between their ancestors, but Sun Rong rejects his extension of friendship, and she strikes him. She instructs him to stop mentioning her ancestors' names, and she attacks him with the water energy, but he blocks it without stress. Sun Rong hears an announcement that Factions 59 has seized the Altar of Fire. Tang receives a call from Bufeng informing him he conquered the dog easily, while Tang tells him to come to the Altar of Fire to meet Sun Rong. Sun Rong questions how they know their locations, and he informs her Xiaobei detected their locations, and she is going to seize another location soon. Sun Rong thinks about Chen Chao and says she must hurry up to seize the Altar of Water. Sun Rong tries to attack him with her ocean dance, but Tang detects it and blocks her off with his blowing snow force. She attacks him aggressively, and he commends her for being skillful, but Sun Rong says it is a pity she is not skilled enough to defeat him. He announces Bufeng's arrival, and Bufeng tries to attack her from behind, but she blocks him off. Bufeng exchanges pleasantries with her, but Sun Rong introspectively says she cannot beat them alone, so she should try to seize the other altars. She realizes Tang has sealed the water, so she cannot escape with her trick of water. Bufeng approaches her and summons his negative energy to attack her, but suddenly, a stronger negative energy causes an intense vibration, and the ice seal breaks off. Sun Rong uses the opportunity to escape, and Tang orders Bufeng to find her. He tells Bufeng he doesn't know him, but he must obey him, and he will help fulfill his wish after he wins. Bufeng smiles while Tang seizes the altar, giving them a count of 5-0, almost winning the competition. But Faction 60 suddenly seizes the Altar of Wood, and they have a 4-1 count. Sun Rong swims towards another altar, and she receives the news that Wang Ling combined with the magical dog to seize the altar. The instructors express their shock when they see Wang Ling's new form. The scene opens with the occurrence at the Altar of Wood, where Guo Hao battles with Liang Fei. Guo Hao attacks him with a mouth cannon, and he says words to him to attack him. He runs out of words to say, and Liang Fei tries to attack him. The magic beast appears behind them and urges them to keep fighting so he can absorb their spiritual force, but he freezes when he sees Wang. Liang Fei calls Wang trash and tramples on him. Guo Hao asks Wang if he intends to be a force value 5 forever, and the word strikes Liang Fei. Guo apologizes to Wang, saying he needs to look for words to say to him. He directs words meant for Wang to Liang, and the cannon attacks him intensively. He calls Wang stone-hearted, fake, irresponsible, cold-blooded, and lame, among many other insulting words, but the magic cannon attacks Liang Fei instead. The insults build up emotions in Wang's mind after realizing he has been misunderstood for restraining himself. The energy breaks his amulet, but the magic dog rushes toward him and offers to devour his negative energy, thinking he will break off his seal. Wang tells him he can now use his magic energy, and the magic beast realizes Wang set him up. He combines with the dog and pushes Liang Fei away with a slight touch on his shoulder. Liang Fei flies through the sky, claiming he felt as though a truck had hit him intensely. Guo Hao tells Wang his efforts have paid off, and he knew he would make a genius out of him. Wang agrees with him and says they have to take charge. He proceeds to seize the altar, and they announce Faction 60's possession of the altar. Tang speaks with Xiaobei, and she informs him of Wang's spiritual combination with the magic beast. They detect that the combination is stronger than they expected, and Wang has been deceiving them by hiding. Wang seizes the Altar of Fire, giving them a 2-3 count. Xiaobei informs Tang that Wang and the spiritual beast are heading towards her. so she has to go. Tang orders them to defend the other altars. He strategizes on the best hook and decides to be on the move to help them maintain their victory. He instructs Xiao Bei to meet him at the altar of wood, and she should keep him updated on the combination's location. Wang Ling arrives at the altar of metal, where Chen Chao lies unconscious. He wakes him up, and Chen Chao asks for the damned woman. Wang seizes the altar, and Chen questions how he managed to seize the other altars. They suddenly hear the announcement that Faction 59 has seized the altar of wood and fire again, leaving them with just one altar. Wang discovers Tang is using the strategy of the 3 racing horses, so he might not be able to seize all the altars because he is like a trapped beast fixed in a position. He summons his spiritual force with the plan to seize all the altars very fast. The magic beast urges him to stop and complains that he may have been able to defeat his magical energy, but he has a limited capacity, so they will be done for if he exceeds it. Mr. Wang Zukong says the aim of the competition is not for a powerful competitor to defeat the others, and even if he is fast enough, he cannot avoid the 10 seconds required to start the score accumulation. Wang suddenly gets interrupted by Sun Rong's interception. She informs them she is with Guo Hao because he ran away from the altar of wood when he saw Tang Jingzi and Xiao Bei approaching. Chen tries to complain about him not fighting back, but Guo Hao discards his complaint, saying Xiao Bei also defeated him. Sun Rong shuts them up and informs them the competition aims to seize the altars and not beat the rival. She says Guo Hao reported that Xiao Bei on the Faction 59 team has the advantage of positioning, while they have the advantage of Wang Ling. Wang Ling blushes, and the magic beast teases him for blushing. Sun Rong continues her explanation, saying they will not approach Wang Ling, which means they have to try and take over at least 2 other altars. She instructs Chen Chao to take care of an altar, and they depend on him. Chen Chao accepts the request and assures them they can count on him. Sun Rong explains that she made the resonance at the altar of earth using her trick of water, and they positioned their strongest person, He Bufeng, there so they would attack the altar of fire instead. Xiao Bei notifies Tang that Sun Rong and Guo Hao are moving close to the altar of fire at a high speed. Tang expresses his surprise, saying the altar of fire is the farthest, and Xiao Bei explains they are going through water. Guo Hao arrives and calls Liang Zheng out of the cave while Sun Rong sneaks in. Tang asks if Sun Rong and Guo Hao are at the altar, but he tells him he has only seen Guo Hao, and he is about to strike him down. Guo Hao tries to distract him with foolish statements and informs him he sent his brother away. Liang Zheng gets furious, but Tang commands him to guard the altar safely, or he will lose his position in the student union. Liang turns and sees Sun Rong running towards the altar. He runs after her, but Guo Hao tries to stop him with his mouth cannon. They receive another news that Faction 60 has seized the altar of water. Bufeng remembers Tang's offer to help him fulfill his wish if he helps him, so he says it is his turn to strike. Tang tells him he doesn't care what he has to do as long as he wins. Bufeng arrives at the altar of metal, where Chen Chao is guiding. Chen Chao says he knew they would meet again. A new scene flashes back to Sun Rong and her family when she was little. Her father informed her they would receive the Tang family as guests soon, and she knew what to do. Sun Rong affirmed, saying she would do whatever it took to defend the dignity of her family. The Tang family arrived, and they exchanged pleasantries. Jingzi and Rong spoke to each other formally and in parables, while they struck each other spiritually. In the present day, Sun Rong tries to seize the altar, but she gets stopped by Guo Hao's mouth cannon. Liang misses when he slips on the ground. She defends herself against it but lands in the pit of fire. Guo Hao apologizes to her while Liang mocks him and thanks him for making it easy. Sun Rong remembers her father's words, saying they are descendants of Sun Fengchao and cannot lose to anyone, especially those who have humiliated them with their art of confinement, the Tang family. Sun Rong informs him she is okay and tries to seize the altar again. Tang arrives and orders him to stop her from seizing the altar. Guo Hao tries to block Liang from going forward, but Tang Jingzhe displaces the boundary, and Liang charges towards Sun Rong. She fights him with her sword, until Tang appears in her presence. He informs her they intend to win with a 4-1 score, which is why he is at the altar of fire. Bufeng is at the altar of metal to defeat Chen Chao. Sun Rong realizes they have no chance of winning if they let them win at the altars. She intends to fight with all her might and hopes Chen Chao will defend the altar of metal. At the altar of metal, Bufeng tries to attack Chen Chao, but he keeps running. He realizes Sun Rong's instruction about not beating the enemy, but defending the altar. Zhang tries to trigger him by calling him a coward who cannot fight. Chen Chao remembers his father calling him a coward and other demeaning words when he refused to learn kung fu as a young boy. Bufeng strikes him, and he dodges it again. Zhang's mind in Bufeng regrets being unable to switch to her long-range trick, with everybody watching after discovering Chen's tricks. Ms. Pan says she didn't expect that Chen Chao's endurance while running would be used in the competition. Zhuo Yi confirms that something is wrong and that the student is not using his full force. Bufang discovers the leaves are metal leaves and absorbs all the leaves, striking Chen with them. Chen stands still, enduring the pain of the metal slashes. Bufang continues saying he wonders how long Chen will hold out. Tang Jingze wonders what is keeping Bufang from defeating a mere foundation phase student. Sunrong orders Guo Hao to leave her so she can fight alone. Guo Hao questions if she will be fine alone, but Sunrong gives him a signal, and he moves to the back, where he holds out his sword. Tang reminds her she couldn't defeat him with her ocean dance skill earlier when he blocked her with her blowing snow, and now she has 5 swords left instead of 13. Sunrong says she will use the one with her. He mocks her, saying she hasn't changed after all these years, and he recalls her crying while calling her a loser. She attacks him, and Tang's spiritual being fights with her. Guo Hao summons the spiritual force from his sword. He informed Sunrong earlier that the sword's devil teeth have super strong power, but it is difficult to summon, and he has only one chance, so they can only use it at a critical moment. Sunrong informed him to use it if their surprise attack failed. Chen Chao fights to the last of his strength until he gets weak, but Bufang knocks him down and proceeds to seize the altar. Wang's father meets Ms. Shi, and he urges them to stop the fight because people all over the world will get killed. Sunrong continues fighting with Tang Jingze, but he defends himself against all her attacks while Guo Hao summons the spiritual force from his sword. Xiao Bei, while still watching Wang Ling, suddenly detects some spiritual forces, and she calls Tang Jingzi immediately. She informs him 2 spiritual forces surrounded by Guo Hao are bursting out from the altar of fire and the altar of metal. Bufang sticks his sword to the altar, but suddenly sees Chen Chao exuding a magnificent spiritual force. Guo Hao's sword combines with Sunrong's spiritual sword to produce a mighty fire phoenix. Tang Jingze tries to downplay Sunrong, saying she gave up her sword and took a supporting role just to defeat him, but she ignores him. He charges to attack her, but she defends herself and stops him. He says she is now different than before. Chen Chao charges off to defeat Bufang. Chen Chao and Sunrong both simultaneously apologize to their fathers for not being strong enough, but they have a motivation to make themselves stronger. Chen Chao strikes Bufang down, and Sunrong's phoenix burns Tang and his partner, causing a mighty wave of energy. Wang feels the sensation while Chen Chao walks close to Bufang to hear his words. Chen hears the announcement saying their faction has seized the altar of fire. They receive another announcement saying Faction 60 has seized the altar of earth, giving them a count of 4-1. Sunrong and Guo Hao smile after realizing Wang has helped them. Chen Chao smiles at the announcement, discovering Sunrong's plan worked, but suddenly, Bufang transforms into Jiang, and she casts a vanishing spell on Chen. Xiao Bei sits while watching Wang, and she says she will overtake the altar of water if Wang leaves. She suddenly hears the announcement about Faction 60 having a score of 4, and she questions if they defeated the chairman. Wang, while inserting the sword, recalls Sunrong's task for him to return to his initial weak spiritual force, so Xiao Bei won't detect when he leaves the altar of water, while the magic beast still assumes the human form pretending to be Wang Ling. Xiao Bei wonders who attacked the altar of wood, but she suddenly gets attacked by the magic beast who meddles with her. She questions why she can't control him, and he explains that her spiritual force line only works with humans. He adds that she set herself up because the magical web she deployed made him locate her whereabouts. Sunrong tries to reach Chen Chao, but she can't get a signal from him. Guo Hao assumes he is still circling with Bufang, and he proposes going to find him while she meets Wang Ling at the altar of earth. Their instructors jubilate, saying they are close to winning. Wang's father, unstable about his son, becomes more anxious despite his son winning. He questions how it is going at the altar of metal. Wang's father is anxious because they controlled Wang while he was little to control his emotions, so he didn't care about anything that happens or whatever anyone says, although some of the words affected his amulet, but his parents kept encouraging him. Now that Wang is grown, Sunrong shined a dim light into his heart, and he is now more open to his friends whom he cares about, but those emotions will cause his amulet to displace completely. He continues with his task to defend his friends. Guo Hao arrives at the altar of metal and spots Chen Chao hanging on the metal tree. The magical beast mocks Xiao Bei for fainting, saying young children can't take a joke. He suddenly feels a vibration and he dashes off, saying the boy, Wang Ling, can't hold on for long. Wang Ling inserts his sword into the altar of earth metals. He feels a lot of emotions building up inside him from his moments with Sunrong. The emotions are affecting the amulet, causing it to lose its strength. Wang, oblivious to these emotions, tries hard to control them, but he lets go of the sword while it is still counting, his spiritual being Jinky, questions what is going on with his master, and what the emotional fluctuations are. The instructors notice him letting go of the sword and are confused about his plan when they are on the verge of winning. Wang Ling's father realizes what is going on and tries to suggest saving him, but he stops when Wang's emotions calm down after seeing Sunrong smile, and they hold down the sword together until the counting ends. They announce their faction as the winner, with Sunrong and Wang Ling, the top and bottom of the class, taking the bow. They both separate quickly and laugh at the commentary. Wang's father cries and is surprised to see that Sunrong calmed Wang's almost exploding force. He asks Zhuo Yi to change the screen to Chen Chao's location, and they discover Chen Chao in Guo Hao's arms while he cries intensely. They instruct the medics to go over there immediately. Mr. Wang Zukong angrily questions Ms. C about why Chen Chao is badly hurt, since she claims the guarding spirit figures will guarantee their safety. She says the students are in the foundation phase at the most, and it takes a level 3 of the golden fill phase to wreck the guarding spirit figures. Sunrong insistently tells Wang Ling to keep his smiling face because it looks better than the stiff one. He accepts her order and turns to look at her, but he surprisingly sees Jiang giving her a heavy punch, which sends her spirit out of her body. Wang sees the situation, and his emotions burst open, causing his amulet to break off. His father tries to run to him, but the magic beast arrives speedily and freezes the time. Wang, about to punch Jiang, gets stuck in time, but his energy breaks through the freeze, and the magic beast comments that freezing the flow can't stop him. Wang punches Jiang heavily, and she tumbles. Jiang confirms he has been the one protecting Sunrong, but she concludes that is the end of Sunrong. She attacks Wang with different tactics, but he repels everything. He charges back at her and fights her with his negative spiritual energy. He tries to finish her off, but her words return him to his senses when he sees Sunrong's face. Jiang says he is just as pathetic as she is, and she urges him to kill her, but he leaves, and she calls him a coward. Wang carries Sunrong in his arms, and he cries, questioning why his trick of repairing is not working. The magic beast arrives and informs him her spirit has gone far, and it is no longer in her body. He says she still feels warm and can feel her pulse, but the magic beast says it is because he froze the time, so she will be gone completely when he unfreezes his trick. Wang asks if there is anything he can do, because he is ready to give up his spiritual force. The beast tells him no one can control his spiritual force. The beast suggests freezing time forever or going back in time, so he will forget all his experiences. Wang cries intensely and rejects the two offers, saying he will have the world restarted. Wang Ling restarts the whole world, hoping Sunrong is back from the dead, so he calls out to her. Jinkei informs him no matter how hard he tries, he can't revive her back because Jiang did a number on her. Wang Ling regrets not attacking Jiang Liuying, saying if he had gotten rid of her earlier, there wouldn't be any problems. The magic beast says they can take their time to figure things out now that he has frozen time. Wang asks him if he could control time, and the magic beast answers that his special ability is to convert spiritual force into an accelerating ray, so the spiritual rays that flow in humans can accelerate up to the speed of light, causing the world to be relatively still. Wang asks that if they are faster than the speed of light, they can return to the past. The magic beast agrees, adding that with a tremendous spiritual force. Wang suggests himself, and the magic beast declines, saying the reversal of time is against the law of nature, meaning he will be tampering with cause and effect. The beast adds that he may be struck by lightning. Wang says it doesn't matter to him, and being struck by lightning is better than losing her. The magic beast combines with him and tells him he has lived for tens of thousands of years, but he's going to risk his life to go wild with him. Jinkei wishes him all the best, and they travel through time. Wang arrives back to school on the first day of resumption, but because of the switch in time, he gets saved by Chen Chao and Guo Hao from the bullies. Sunrong in the new world does not acknowledge him, and he chases after her desperately. Wang arrives home and eats hastily, unlike his usual self. Wang is living the peaceful life he has been dreaming of, but it is another world created by the magic beast's trick of time and Wang's trick of space. The convergence of the two tricks at a point with an injection of a huge amount of spiritual force allows the creation of a whole new world that constantly absorbs everything from the old world. Jink realizes the old world will be destroyed since time has stopped and no one can turn the tide. Sunrong arrives at the underworld, and the monarch is shocked when she realizes that Sunrong is the daughter of the Flower Fruit Water Curtain group leader after she conducts a DNA test on her device. Sunrong questions where she is, and the monarch explains she is only in a dream. The underworld palace rumbles, and one of their securities storms into the palace to announce an occurrence. Wang visits the heavenly paradise with Chen Chao and Guo Hao on a bus. He recalls that the last time he visited was with a free and private entry. Zhuo Yi shows them a fairy cave of the universe where the fairy can predict their future future if they place their hands in its mouth. Chen Chao places his hands, and the fairy records that he will fail 3 courses for the semester, while Guo Hao will find love at 40. They both cry, and Zhuo Yi urges Wang to test for his future. Wang inserts his hand, but the fairy goes silent and suddenly starts cracking. The monarch at the Underworld's palace confirms that Sun Rong is truly their master's descendant, and she has exciting friends. The emperor urges her to be faster, or else Wang Ling will blow up the 3 words. She confirms the changes and orders for the girl to be returned. Sun Rong wakes up and sees Jinkei. She questions who he is, and he screams in shock. Meanwhile, in the new world, Wang Ling explains to his friends that he feels he has been to heavenly paradise with someone special. Chen Chao taps him and tells him he is overthinking. He reminds him they are there to have fun, so he suggests they ride the Ferris wheel. Jinky shows Sun Rong a replay of everything that happened, and she realizes Wang created a new world unintentionally to bring her back, but their present world will be gone if they don't bring him back. She questions how they can stop him, and Jinkei suggests she use him. Chen Chao notices Wang's expression in the new world, and he asks if he is okay. Wang Ling tearfully says that he doesn't know what is happening and he should be feeling extremely happy, but he is missing something important. Sun Rong informs Jinkei she is ready, but he asks if she isn't scared because they are going to destroy Wang's new world, and he may strike back unintentionally. Sun Rong tells him that for a girl, to love is to destroy the world. Jinkei, seeing she's ready, turns into a sword, and Sun Rong charges into the space to attack Wang's new world notoriously. She starts calling out to Wang Ling after expending her energy. She eventually finds him after a lot of struggle, and she pierces him with the sword, saying it's time to get up, and she apologizes for keeping him waiting. In the new world, Chen Chao tells him to go on and meet Sun Rong. He leaves, and the time reverts to when Chao is jubilating their wins, and the shadow boss almost strikes him. This time, Wang strikes the shadow boss from his location, causing her to go deep into the ground. Wang Ling seizes the last altar, and they win the competition. Everyone jubilates, and Sun Rong runs toward him to announce their win, but she gets blocked by reporters. The magic beast asks if he is happy with the outcome, and he remembers what happened during the time freeze. After Sun Rong saved Wang tried using the trick of repairing to fix the tears, but it didn't work. The magic beast tells him he has tampered with the law of nature, so the original law no longer exists. He explains that the only way they can return is by using the 2 new worlds Wang created to reverse time, but Sun Rong will not have any memories of the occurrence. Sun Rong assures them she will never stop liking Wang as long as they are saving the world. Sun Rong blushes, and they evolve back into the old world. Wang's father comes to meet where he sits to give him the amulet. The magic beast tells Wang that his emotions and feelings for Sun Rong will turn cold when he accepts the amulet, but Wang tells him his hope is world peace. The destruction of the positive and negative spiritual forces has caused immeasurable damage to the world's spiritual force, so it is difficult to maintain world peace. Wang sighs dejectedly. Zhuo Yi informs the chief that Zhang Liuying has been taken into custody and will be transferred to the Supreme Court afterward. The chief thanks him for helping them exterminate the Shadow faction. Zhuo Yi questions the mysterious party that wants Sun Rong assassinated. He ponders deeply, while the chief receives a call about an occurrence related to the sword competition. The chief turns on his TV screen to show Zhuo Yi that a space station detected a spiritual force tsunami centered around faction. B9's competition field. He says, the gross national spiritual force product depreciated sharply while some spiritual vehicles have gone down, and the cause is unknown but under investigation. The chief tells Zhuo Yi his superiors are unhappy about the news, and they have the cultivation department under much pressure. The broadcaster says the world's spiritual force is at 4.8, which is very low, and either forwarding, rewarding, or putting into his favorites can cure it. Zhuo Yi agrees to find the cause, and the chief instructs him to cancel the sword competition on his way out. At the Faction 60 school, Chen Chao says they had an overwhelming advantage over Faction 59 in the preliminary, and they would have made it to the finals if they hadn't called off the competition. Sun Rong reminds them that making it to the top 10 is enough to celebrate. Chen agrees with her, considering that a force value 5 laggard was in their team. He says Wang has not been talking since the competition, questioning if he is withdrawing. Sun Rong affirms that he has been truly distant. However, Wang is just enjoying his quiet daily life after his emotions got bound by the amulet. Their instructor, Ms. Pan, walks into the class and commends the students for turning in their homework for the summer vacation, so they truly deserve to be in the class elite. She announces they will take another spiritual force test to determine whether they worked hard during their vacation, to transit into the intermediate foundation phase. Ms. Pan informs them that any student below the foundation phase will be deported to the ordinary class, while students who excel in the ordinary class will be promoted to the class elite. Sunrong is surprised everyone is not in the intermediate foundation phase, and Chen replies to her that only some have the talent and family background like her. Chen says he broke through to the foundation stage during the vacation while most students didn't practice. They suddenly remember Wang, and Sunrong offers to perfuse her spiritual energy into him, while Chen Chao proposes to help him break through with his mercy palms. Still, Sunrong disagrees with him, saying the forcible breakthrough will harm Wang's meridian. They argue with each other until Guo Hao stops them and informs them Wang Ling has left. At the restroom, Jinke asks his master what he will do, and Wang Ling replies that the test is for status, not for strength, so he can't evade it. Jinke hides when he notices Guo Hao's presence. Guo Hao comes in and offers to help Wang if he cooperates with him to make the golden pill for the foundation phases as they did before. Wang detects he is not in the intermediate foundation phase yet, so he asks him. Guo Hao realizes Wang Ling has discovered his status, so he kneels and begs him while explaining that his parents won't take it easy if he gets sent to class ordinary. Wang Ling agrees to work with him, so they head out to meet the magic beast. The test commences, and Mr. Wang Zukang demonstrates the process, saying each student will stand at the center of the formation and concentrate their spiritual energy, so the formation will adjust power automatically based on the testee's strength. A thunderbolt will strike, and those who get struck by it but their bodies do not explode will pass the test. He assures the students of their safety. While Mr. Wang continues his explanation, Sun Rong notices Wang Ling's absence, and she asks about him. Chen Chao assures him that Guo Hao is searching for him, and they will return in time for the test since their class is the last. Ms. Pan looks through the field and realizes Wang and Guo's absence, so she decides to search for them. Guo Hao refines the foundation pill with the help of the magic beast's time speed. Guo Hao tells Wang the pills only boost their status for 1 hour, so he has to take them right before the test. He suddenly hears the footsteps of Ms. Pan, and he gets stuck on what to do. Wang Ling comes up with a plan, so she enters to find them naked and drying their clothes. Ms. Pan screams at them, questioning why they are in the refining room during the test. Guo Hao lies that they fell into the pool and are drying their clothes. She sees the furnace and asks what is happening while approaching it. The magic beast jumps at her to stop her, so Guo Hao quickly brings out the pills. When she stands up and checks the furnace, she discovers they are drying their socks inside it. She angrily asks them to make haste and join the test. Wang Ling asks Guo Hao about the pills, and he suddenly remembers he swallowed them to hide them. The pills start digesting in his body, causing the spiritual force to pound on his meridians. His body keeps swelling, and he tells Wang he will break up if the pills are unblocked. Wang Ling hits Guo massively, and he falls flat on the ground. Guo opens his eyes to see Chen Chao waking him up to inform him it is his time for the test. He walks up to the formation in doubt after realizing the pill has taken over 1 hour, so it may no longer work. He is surprised after realizing he passed the test. He wonders if he is actually in the intermediate foundation phase, but Jinke tells Wang that his hit pushed him through the bottleneck. Wang Ling gets called for his test, and Mr. Wang Zukong gives him a helmet because his spiritual force is low. The test commences, and Jinky tells Wang there is a bug in the formation because they didn't consider cultivators like him. The thunderbolt escalates, and the students question what is happening. Sun Rong tries to run into the formation, but Mr. Wang stops her. He asks them to unplug the doom's socket. The city experiences a blackout instantly, and the world's total spiritual force value drops again. Wang Ling throws his sword to Sun Rong and urges her to cut the connection with it, saying peachwood swords are insulators. Sun Rong successfully disconnects the doom, but it causes a crack in the ground. Wang asks Mr. Wang if he passed, but he opens his mouth wide in shock. The incident is later classified as the malfunction of the doom-breaking system, but Jinke's force created a crack in space, causing the spiritual force of their world to disperse into another. In the demon world, the demon emperor speaks to his counselor about the crack in the ground. The counselor explains to him there is a crack in the abyss that leads to the human world. The demon emperor tells him he sent one of his demon kings to the world before. The counselor affirms and says the demon king he sent was the magic frog, who was his apprentice at the time. The emperor says it has been 3 demon years, and he has not presented the human world to him. He feels that the crack in the abyss is causing the human world to absorb the spiritual force of the demon world, despite coveting their spiritual energy. The counselor questions if their gross national force product has been reduced, and the emperor angrily questions what the magic frog is up to. The counselor offers to go the world and check what his useless apprentice is up to. The magic beast sees a message from his master that will be visiting, and he freezes immediately. Wang Ling and his father sit in front of the TV, watching the news while Wang's mother hears a knock on the door, and she opens it to find the magic beast. The beast sits between Wang and his father, and he hugs Wang saying he misses him. At school, Instructor Wang Zukong questions why Instructor Pan wants to do a home visit for Wang Ling. She explains that he has the lowest scores and is still in class elite after the test. Mr. Wang asks if she thinks he cheated, and she declines, saying she is more concerned about the cost of spiritual energy in their faction that has skyrocketed after the test, and they are almost going bankrupt. Mr. Wang wishes her a safe visit and informs her he is going for a personal matter when she asks if he would be going with her. The demon counselor arrives in the human world, and he sends the magic beast, Froggy 2, a text message that Froggy is ignoring his message and will come to find him. At Wang's house, Froggy 2 explains to Jinky about his situation with his master, and that serving with him was the most miserable experience of his life, and he still shows up in his nightmares. Wang asks if that's his reason for hiding in his house, and Froggy affirms. Mrs. Wang announces dinner, and they all head to the dining table. While eating, Mr. Wang informs Wang Ling that he will be trying out his new spiritual figure that will help with his speech impairment, and he asks Froggy 2 for his assistance. Mrs. Wang hopes the figure will help this time because the price of magic pills has gone up. She talks about Wang getting a job after school before he stands up to leave. They suddenly see Froggy 2 shaking while on the chair. Froggy 2's master, oblivious that the magic frog is now a dog, finds it strange to see the residue of his spiritual energy in a doghouse. Mr. Wang instructs Froggy 2 to assist him in fixing the new amulet. He adds that the situation may be catastrophic if they don't handle it smoothly. He gives Froggy the new amulet, while he uses a technique to pull off the old one, and Froggy fixes it immediately. Wang mutters some words they can't understand, which gets them confused until Mr. Wang realizes Froggy 2 fixed the amulet upside down. Mr. Ling imagines the world getting destroyed, but his imagination leaves him when he discovers that Froggy 2 has devoured the spiritual energy. Froggy 2's master walks through the streets in search of Froggy 2. He admits that Froggy's spirit is so strong because it is everywhere, and he just can't locate him. Mrs. Wang welcomes Ms. Pan into the house when she arrives. Mrs. Wang asks her husband if Wang's speech is better because he doesn't seem different to her. Surprisingly, Wang walks up to the instructor to bow down and welcome her. Ms. Pan explains to Wang's parents that he has not been performing well in class, but she receives a huge shock when Mrs. Wang says they are not bothered, as long as he makes friends and has fun in school. She talks about Wang not doing his vacation assignment, failing the pill refining class, and how he has not been enthusiastic about his studies. Wang appears and proves her wrong by showing her the figures he made for the summer vacation, the pills he produced on his own, and also some elements of his studies. Ms. Pan goes speechless with Wang's presentations, while Mrs. Wang questions her husband about the new amulet he gave Wang, because it is causing him to act strange. Mr. Wang instructs her to distract Ms. Pan while he gives him a new one. While Mrs. Wang shows Ms. Pan around, Mr. Wang fixes an already adjusted amulet and places it on Wang. He explains that he has adjusted the logic on the spiritual figure, so it should work better. But Wang tells his father he feels weird about the amulet and he sees illusions. Mr. Wang gets confused for a bit until he sees the gadgets and different objects in the house moving. Mrs. Wang brings Ms. Pan through the stairs after showing her around the apartment, which to Ms. Pan is quite unusual. Mrs. Wang suddenly sees the occurrence in the living room, so she tells Mrs. Pan she has to discuss something with her privately. Mr. Wang informs Wang he has enlightened the furniture, and Wang replies to his father that he has a bug in the amulet. Mr. Wang informs him he can't do anything about it, so he has to use his invincible power for it. Wang grabs Froggy 2, and they succeed in making one of the books stop, so his father urges him to carry on. Mrs. Wang gives Ms. Pan an emotional story that Wang Ling has low scores because being Wang's parents, they are not very talented cultivators, so they have not passed the bodybuilding phase. She adds that Wang did not have friends as a child, so they are happy now that he has made a lot of friends in his new school and is living more happily. Ms. Pan looks remorseful at her story. Wang successfully controls the objects, and Mr. Wang instructs Froggy 2 to assist him in removing the amulet because Wang has overused his spiritual energy. But Froggy 2 sits in front of the door in fear, realizing his master has detected his location, so he passes out. His master appears at the door and attempts to open it, but Wang's spiritual force charges at him and blasts him off. Ms. Pan and Mrs. Wang arrive downstairs, and she explains. She understands Wang Ling more after hearing his mother's story. They thank her for coming and bid her farewell. Froggy 2 wakes up and discovers his master is gone, so he decides to go home. The scene opens with a flight attendant helping out a passenger. A lady called Yue makes up in the restroom and appears before her partner on the plane, Idler, to ask how she looks. He screams at her and advises her to tone her beautification art down because they are on a mission. She tells him she made up for him, but he is focused on work. Idler tells her he feels something unusual, and suddenly, the airplane starts shaking due to turbulence. The hostess announces there is a fluctuation in Songhai's airspace's impulses, so they need to stay still and fasten their belts. The hostess fastens her seatbelt, but Yue stands midway without making a move. The hostess implores her to sit and fasten her seatbelt, but she refuses and shuts her up with magic. Just as she says she doesn't have to fasten her seatbelt with the power she has mastered, the airplane crashes, causing her to lose her balance. Idler tries to hold on to her, but she falls off instantly. Go Hao tells his team the story of the swordliner who crashed in the plane 10 years ago, and the idle beauty in seclusion who was seriously injured after falling into Songhai. They continue discussing the rumors behind the two assassins until Ms. Pan enters the classroom to disperse them. She informs them a student from the class ordinary has been promoted to the class elite because of her extraordinary performance in the spiritual force test. She appears at the door, and Wang recognizes her immediately as the girl from his new world. Sun Rong sees Wang staring, and she thinks he is staring at her, so she blushes. The new girl introduces herself as Lin Xiaoyu. Ms. Pan urges them to take care of her because she has family difficulties, while Jinkei tells Wang she looks familiar. She informs them their instructor, Mr. Wang, is on an assignment, so she would be taking the class. Mr. Wang trails the idle beauty to a location using a detector map. Zhuo Yi urges him to be careful because she is a supreme assassin, and Mr. Wang tells him he is a supreme instructor, so he doesn't need to doubt him. Mr. Wang immediately spots the target, and he orders her, Zhang Liuyue, to surrender, questioning where she has been all these years. But the figure explodes immediately with Mr. Wang in it. The actual Zhang stands on a building and mocks the cultivation cruise group for not making progress. She says it was an easy trick, and they got lured into it easily. She concludes that it is time to fetch her sister. Chen Chao and Guo Hao discuss Zhang Liuying. Guo Hao tells Chen that Zhang Liuying, the Shadow Faction's boss, is imprisoned in the faction's underground jail. Chen Chao says the faction's security is weak, so he is surprised they are keeping her there. But Guo Hao reminds him Froggy too was imprisoned there, so rumor has it there is a strong underground jail of high level. Guo's conversation gets cut short by a movement. Guo detects the lady as the assassin in their picture, so Chen Chao and Wang chase after her. They follow her to a lumber room that has another dorm room, which they enter. They assume the place is Idler Beauty's hideout because the place gives off a rough hangout vibe. Wang announces that someone is coming, so they hide under a table to discover a lady undressing while they hide. They quickly dissuade her from completely underdressing by showing their faces, and they discover it is the new girl from class. She screams at them and charges toward them to attack them with a broom, but she misses, and it touches a statue that rotates. Suddenly, the floor opens, and they all fall into an underground dungeon, so Wang jumps after them. Liu Ying asks her sister Liu Yue her purpose for coming, and Liu Yue replies falsely that she misses her. She informs her that the security guards have no strength to stop her when Liu Ying asks about them. Liu Ying implores her sister to release her so they can join hands and regain the Shadow Faction, but Liu Ying brings out an arrow to attack her, claiming she failed to fulfill her assassination contract to kill Sun Rong. Liu Ying questions how her sister got involved with them, and she says it was a mission from the demon world, so she should proceed to kill her. Liu Yue shoots the arrow toward her, but she misses it intentionally, telling her she has scores to settle. Wang and the others fall through the jail, and Wang apologizes to Liu Yue for disrupting her. Jinkei tells him he has found a secure room, so Wang creates a portal that makes them land in a room. They suspect the room to be the Idler Beauty's secret room because of the equipment in the room. Wang questions Jinkei if that is his reason for making them arrive at the room, but he declines, saying the other rooms are not secure. Lin turns their attention to the legendary wall of clues, and Chen Chao questions what Idler Beauty is investigating. He sees the picture of the Idler Beauty and a headline that a swordliner crashed 10 years ago. Liu Yue explains her plight to Liu Ying that she fell in love with the Idler Beauty with his unspeakable features for 100 years, and enjoyed their moment together while they traveled through land and oceans. She became the Shadow Faction leader at the time, and everything was good until the plane crash happened. Liu Yue says she fell into the demon world and spent 10 years there, locked in the sick palace, while translating documents of the human and demon world, until she came across the assassination contract for the Shadow Faction's boss with her sister's name. She realized Liu Ying coveted her position, so she caused the plane crash. Liu Ying tells her she may have coveted her position as the Shadow Faction boss, but she wasn't involved with the crash. Liu Yue fires the arrow at her angrily, but Mr. Wang appears to stop it. He tells her she doesn't know the actual truth. Guo Hao connects the dots of the incident that occurred during the plane crash and the magic frog invasion together. Wang jumps us abruptly, explaining that he finally understands what happened. Wang flashes back to the occurrence when he defeated the magic frog and saved the plane. The Idle Beauty came out of the airplane after his beloved Yue had disappeared into the demon world, so he decided to stay in Songhai and find a secret base until her return. They all express their emotions at the story while Wang shakes his head at them in disbelief. At the jail, Mr. Wang explains to Liu Yue that he is idler beauty, and he waited for her at the same place he lost her. Liu Yue sheds tears of joy while she tells him that he has added weight. Mr. Wang explains he devoured food whenever he felt downhearted because of her. Liu Yue cries and they kiss each other, causing Liu Ying to scream. They both depart to see the moon and stars as he promised her. Mr. Wang explains the best way to care for spiritual swords and spirits in class because misappropriation causes them to go blunt and useless. Liu Yue asks how to maintain them, and Mr. Wang informs them they can find the procedures in a guidebook. Jingke appears to Wang and tells him he has not been maintained since he was little. Wang ignores him and stares at Lin Xiaoyu. Guohao asks Sun Rong on their way home if she has fixed her sword. She affirms that the body has been repaired, but the spirits are still undergoing recovery. She asks about their swords, and Chen Chao shows them the toolkits he got online. Sun Rong discourages him, saying he has to maintain his sword in a shop because of its size. Guohao says his sword is blunt, so he needs to work on it. Chen offers to file it for him, but he declines, saying he has the coupons for a maintenance shop. Sun Rong shows him their VVIP ticket, and she urges everyone to come with her to the shop. They arrive at the maintenance shop, and Lin Xiaoyu appears to them as the maintenance officer. She repairs Guo's sword, and they commend her for doing a great job. She explains that she grew up among swords because her parents entrusted her with a sword spirit, who acted as her sister. She continues explaining her history and that she is working in different spiritual sword shops, hoping to meet her sister someday. She tells Chen Chao she doesn't have a spiritual sword because she can't afford one. Tang Jingzi and his crew members appear and act rudely to Wang and his team again. Tang says they are at the shop for maintenance and they're certain it'll help her boost her compensation with their credit cards. He gives her their swords and orders her to deliver them to them the next day. Lin Xiaoyu complains that she uses 3 days for maintenance work, so Sun Rong informs him she has booked her for the whole day. Lin Xiaoyu declines her offer and she accepts to do Tang's work. He mocks her state and tells her she should work hard so she can afford a spiritual sword as well, while he walks away. Sun Rong expresses her anger at them, and Chen practices beating them up while they walk out. Sun Ram considers buying her a spiritual sword, but Guo stops her because it could affect her self-esteem. Wang stops on his way, and he reads a description. They all join him, and he explains to them that the best self-help they can render to her is to forge her a sword, which they all agree to. Later at night, Lin Xiaoyin closes from work, and they express their pity for her walking so late. They decide to forge the swords, and Sun Rong brings out a guidebook. Chen Chao steals a holy relic from home, which Guo accredits as good material. Sun Rong brings a unique spiritual potion, while Wang brings the demon counselor's element that fell when he got blasted. Wang tells them he saw the element outside his house, and the spiritual force's level of the element almost destroys the forging system. They put the materials in the furnace for the sword to forge. The next day, Lin Xiaoyu arrives at work to find the crew around. Sun Rong presents her with the new spiritual sword so she can use it in class in the coming week. Lin Xiaoyu cries intensely, and they apologize to her, thinking it is because of their imperfect job. Lin Xiaoyu explains to them that the sword looks like her sister. Wang designed the sword because he knew that was his sister's look. She enthusiastically shouts it is the best gift she has received. Tang arrives again in the morning and mocks them for forging an ugly sword for her. He informs them the manager maintained the sword for him by himself, so he is not there to make her work late, like Sun Rong questioned, while Guo mocks the sword. Tang challenges Lin Xiaoyu to do a trial test on the sword to determine the extent of its power. Sun Rong tries to use her VIP ticket for her, but his security declines, saying he booked the appointment first. To their surprise, Tang informs them his family owns the shop, and he orders Lin Xiaoyu to follow him. Lin Xiaoyu accepts the offer because she doesn't desire to lose her part-time job. She stands on the testing ground fully armored, but still in fear. Tang cuts through the different objects for the test. Tang commends the work of his master's maintenance, and he points it toward her in a bid to strike. Chen Chao tries to get down to save her, but he gets stopped by the security. Guo Hao tells him it is dangerous to perform a live trial test on someone, and Wang agrees with him. Tang tells Lin Xiaoyu it is her turn while he charges toward her. Tang's sword suddenly gets stuck on Lin's new sword, and some demon-like vines extend from her sword to his. Wang informs them Lin's sword is absorbing Tang's spiritual force and his swords. It goes on for a while until Wang stops it with his sword, and Tang kneels while shrieking in fear. They all run toward Lin, and Sunrong hugs her happily. Jinkei returns from his maintenance checkup, and he tells Jinki the girls at the shop were full of passion. The demon counselor reforms into his shape and sees Lin Xiaoyu with the sword. He possesses her and questions who turned his ring of chaos into a sword. He performs a soul search and sees the face of Sun Rong with the others. He thanks the demon emperor for bringing the monkey's offspring to him, and he promises to avenge his demon race. The next day at school, Wang, Chen, and Guo peep at two students while they give and receive gifts. Mr. Wang Zukong sees them at the door, and the class's door bursts wide open. Mr. Wang seizes the gift, saying the school is for cultivation, not for fun or joy, so they should concentrate on their studies, not well-wishing gifts. The girl gives the guy a gift because it is the autumn reunion time, and people give their friends things they made themselves. She begs Mr. Wang intensely in his office while Sun Rong peeps. She wonders how she would present Wang with her gift when their instructor is against it. Lin Xiaoyu suddenly appears behind her, and she tells Sun to wait till Mr. Wang gets off work to give Wang the sachet. Sun Rong negates the opinion, saying they do not open the school at night, but Lin Xiaoyu assures her she lives on campus, so that shouldn't be a problem. Zhang Liuying tries to break herself out of prison after discovering that the world's spiritual force is low, so the restraints on the Supreme Jail are weak. Chen and Guo discuss the mirror of the Moonbridge that A's friend advised her to visit with her crush. Guo talks about the supernatural myths behind the bridge, causing Chen to freak out while Wang stands up to get his noodles. Sun Rong appears and taps him on his head thrice with a ruler, and she leaves, hoping he understands. But Wang just stares in confusion. Chen and Wang stand close to him while Guo explains Sun Rong's intention. He says Sun Rong wants them to meet at the back door of the campus at midnight. Sun Rong waits alone for Wang at the campus. Her face lights up when she sees Wang, but she expresses her disappointment to see Guo and Chen with her. Chen tells her they didn't want Wang to go on the adventure alone so they can protect him. Chen asks if she doesn't mind their presence, and she replies that she would love to go on the adventure with them, but her mind is more pissed at the situation because of the gift sachet she intends to give him. They start the adventure, but Guo expresses his fear when he hears a sound that turns out to be a wild cat. Guo laughs at him while Sun Rong teases him, asking if he is scared. Chen disagrees with her and offers to lead the way to show his strength. They continue their journey, and Chen sees another figure like a ghost, which causes him to freak out. Sun Rong calms him down to inform him it is Lin Xiaoyu, and she is their adventure guide because she stays on the school campus while Wang stares at her suspiciously. The whole building vibrates because Zhang Liuying has successfully freed herself from the cage. She devises a method to escape from the Supreme Jail, and she sees a water base from the pipes in the school. Chen and Guo discuss the spiritual girl's statue they saw in the faction, while in the restroom, until they suddenly hear the toilet rumbling. Chen frets while Guo opens the toilet lid, and the dirty water splashes on his face. Chen Chao faints immediately while Guo Hao defends himself. Wang and Sun Rong run inside to check on them. Wang sees Zhang Liuying climbing out of the toilet seat, and he flushes her back in with force, which causes her to land in a secret room where she senses her sister's smell. She sees an exit lift, and she goes through it. Sun Rong questions what occurred that caused Chen and Guo to pass out. Lin Xiaoyu suggests they continue their adventure without them, but Sun Rong declines, saying she can't leave them alone. Jinkei notifies Wang that Zhang Liuying is escaping again, so he goes after her. Zhang Liuying contemplates who to assassinate first between Zhuo Yi and her sister, but she finally decides on Sun Rong. The lift opens, and he smashes her down to the ground again. Sun Rong and Lin Xiaoyu appear, and they question what caused the hole in the lift, but Wang keeps quiet. Lin Xiaoyu excuses herself, and Jinki questions what the demon in her is up to. The demon's counselor says he will take Sun when the portal opens at midnight. He wants Sun to pay for the sins of her ancestors when they destroyed the demon race on their way to the west. Wang and Sun Rong continue their adventure together, and they arrive in front of the mirror of the Moonbridge, and she tells Wang the story behind the mirror. She says the mirror has the legend of transcending space, and the mirror will reflect one's future if visited on the 7th of August. Zhang Liuying swims out of a small pool of water again to find Wang and Sun Rong. She celebrates her luck for seeing Sun Rong and follows them. Wang looks through the mirror during Sung's narration, and he sees Jiang on the statue. Before processing his next action, he gets hit by Lin Xiaoyu. Sun Rong screams in shock while Lin Xiaoyu informs her he is back. Sun Rong charges to attack her, but Lin bends her with a spell. The demon reveals himself in the mirror. He says the mirror can help restore any crack in space, so he can use it to create the portal back to the demon world. He opens the portal and welcomes Sun Rong to the demon world, but Jiang Liuying runs towards them to attack Sun Rong. saying she belongs to her. Wang quickly appears between them and breaks Sunrong free. Jiang uses the force to attack the demon, sending him back through the portal and closing it in the process. Wang strikes Jiang intensely after she recovers from hitting the demon. Wang stays beside Sunrong, and he picks up her sachet. He assures her he has it secured when she asks for it. Chen Chao chats happily in his room with an internet idol, Fairy Fox. Zhuo Yi summons the top predecessors of the human world from their retreat for a meeting to discuss the world's spiritual force situation. He explains that the total value of the world's spiritual energy has dropped to 4.7, so the spiritual energy crisis is developing. One of the predecessors tells him a similar occurrence had happened in the previous year, so it is not enough to call them from their retreat. Zhuo Yi explains that the shell of the human world has become very fragile. So many infiltrates from the demon world have been coming in through the spatial crack. Some of the predecessors decide the best way to fix the crack. One of them suggests building a wall to strengthen it, while another predecessor argues against it, saying the demons have been greedy and coveted the human world for a long time, so a war is about to break out, and they must fight to protect themselves. The predecessors continue arguing about the action to take until Zhuo Yi cuts them short, saying that the coordinates to the human world are unknown, and they may get lost in the spatial storms if they start an expedition into the crack immediately. The leader suggests they seize a demon to ask about the coordinates. The other members bow in agreement, and another predecessor says the demons will act rashly, but they will follow his decision. They all go offline, and Zhuo Yi questions the cause. Guo Hao distracts Wang from his voice chat and informs him that Chen Chao's father is punishing him at the gate. The students gather around Chen Chao and his father to watch their drama. Mr. Chen scolds his son for dropping back to the foundation phase. Chen Chao explains that he transferred his energy to his friend, who needed funds to heal her master, and she was going online to beg. His father commends him for being selfless and helping his friend in need. Mr. Chen returns Chen Chao's phone and decides to leave, but he stops to ask if he knows where the tongue of Heavenly Hound is. Chen freaks out, and his smartphone plays the live chat where the Fairy Fox talks about Chen's help with the tongue of Heavenly Hound. His father hears and slashes his phone instantly, in an attempt to hurt him particularly. He commands him to stop watching the live stream. Sun Rong and the others walk through the school hall. Sun questions how Chen Chao lost some of his spiritual energy. Guo Hao replies that live streaming has been upgraded to provide a function where fans reward their favorites with spiritual energy. Lin Zhaoyu says it's witchcraft because, in ancient times, witches would seduce passersby to drain their spiritual energy gradually until it left them weak and disabled. Sun commends Zhaoyu for knowing so much, while Guo Hao says Chen's phone was severed by his father, so he will not have access to the live stream. While on their way, they hear sounds from the computer room. They enter and discover that Chen is live streaming with the school's computer. Sun Rong sighs and says he is hopeless, while Wang questions if the live stream is operated by a demon. Lin Xiaoyu affirms, and she says the best way to conquer her witchcraft is in vitro meta spirit. The meta spirit wanders into cyberspace and enters the demon's live stream room to interrupt them. She adds that the conquering would require someone in the golden pill face, or even higher. Guo Hao suggests another way is by using his digital spiritual beast Trojan to blow up the Fairy Fox Demon's livestream. He types in the livestream address and sends Trojan to blow it up. Fairy Fox suddenly gets a warning alert, and she strikes the Trojan force back, which destroys it. Fairy Fox continues chatting with Chen Chao, and he responds happily. Sun Rong says he is finished and also looks thin. Wang suggests using the Little Wise Guy's mind game that uses the art of seduction to trick anyone that receives a gift from the spellcaster. Sun Rong appears beside Chen during the livestream, and she offers him a drink. Fairy Fox questions if she is his mate, and Chen declines instantly, saying they just go to the same school. Sun Rong rolls her eyes against his words. Chen gulps the drink, and Sun Rong casts the spell instantly. Immediately, Fairy Fox receives a notification that her popularity value is dropping. Sun Rong tells Chen he should go home because they care for him. Chen announces to Fairy Fox that he is leaving, but she stops him with her words and controls his mind. She tells him words like it is her first time chatting with a fan, especially a fan who offered to help her master, and she will miss him if he leaves because she has low streaming popularity. Sun Rong tries to shake him out of his thoughts, but he shuns her, saying she should behave. Sun Rong feels the shock and stays mute, while Xiaoyu wonders what will happen. The Fairy Fox says her plan is going well, and just a few more spiritual energy harvests will help her recover her boss's body. Mr. Chen arrives and laments about his son, saying he was as young and confused as Chao when he was younger. Mr. Chen adds that the tongue of Heavenly Hound was a gift from his wife when they were younger. He wonders what evil his family has done to deserve such karma. Fairy Fox thanks Chen Chao, and his father angrily slashes the computer into two. He orders his son to come with him, but he disagrees and says he is going to another dimension. Suddenly, Chen Chao connects an electric plug to himself, causing him to erupt in a bright light. Guo calls it the vitro meta spirit that only someone in the golden pill phase can master. His father questions what he is trying to do, but he is surprised that Chao is not responding. Xiaoyu explains that Chen Chao's spirit is in cyberspace, so what is left behind is a shell of his body. Chen Chao travels through the light portal to the Fairy Fox's stream room. Fairy Fox removes her disguise since she has collected more than 1 million spiritual energies. Chao arrives through the computer, but he is surprised that the live stream room is wallpaper. He sees the demon behind him, saying Chao doesn't recognize him because he turned off his beauty mode. Chao's father tries to drag his spirit back with pressure, but all his efforts prove abortive. Wang asks for the address of the live stream room, and Guo questions if he wants to watch a live stream too. Chen Chao tries to attack the demon, but the demon tells him to stop trying, because a meta spirit is unable to attack a spiritual body, so he should just enter the energy can and become a spiritual energy for him. He tries to send Chao into the energy can, but Chao gets distracted by Sun's voice on the computer screen. Wang punches the demon from the screen while he drags Chao back in. The news announces that Zhuo Yi discovered the demon base, where a large quantity of spiritual energy was recovered, but the culprits have escaped, while the Flower Fruit Curtain Group has been declared bankrupt. Mr. Sun, Sun Rong's father, tries to reach out to one of his friends to rent him about 200 million spiritual energy to save his company from bankruptcy, but he says he will consider his request. Mr. Sun flares up at him for declining his request, saying he helped while they were in school, but he is giving up on him now. He attends to the person knocking on the door. The man gives him a letter from the Songhai Court of Law that liquidation will be carried out the next day. Sunrong's friends decide to visit her in her new house, and they get confused about the exact location when they find themselves before a mountain, not a house. Sunrong jumps down from the trees, and they all express their shock. She leads them into the mountain and offers them drinks with molded cups. Guo complains that he knows her family has failed in doom breaking, but he didn't expect they would return to the Stone Age. Sunrong explains that they mortgaged all their properties, so the ancestral fortress was the only place left for them to stay. Wang asks her how the situation happened, and she explains that the drop in the total value of the world's spiritual energy brought about poor immortal herb harvest since their family produces magic pills as a pharmaceutical company. Mr. Sun interrupts their conversation and assures Sun Rong that they will recover their losses. He says the Sun Rong group developed from the mountain, so they will plant new seeds for the pills and become wealthy again. The Tang family celebrates Sun Rong's family loss. Tang commends his uncle for tampering with the Sun's stocks and short-selling their company. The uncle explains that it was just a game of spiritual capital. Since the total value of the world's spiritual energy is low and their stock is unreasonably high, he will spread fake information and dump the great number of shares he bought in the Sun's stock, so all the major shareholders would jump off the board. He says they must carry on with their scheme as planned to eliminate the Sun family once and for all, because the spiritual vein of the flower fruit resides in the mountain. Tang Jingzi thanks him for his help, and he asks why he is helping them destroy the Sun family. The uncle, Richmond, tells him that he needs the spiritual energy. Mr. Sun narrates the history of the Sun's family to the crew, while Wang walks up to meet Sun Rong. He questions why she is bothered, and she shows him the spiritual spring water. She explains that there used to be a waterfall hanging at the entrance of the Water Curtain Cave, and now there is only a tiny bit left. She says the mountain's spiritual vein will be cut off if the water dries up completely. Wang tells her they can help, but she thanks him and declines, saying the Sun family still possesses the worker bee spirit, so they will fight back. Guo calls out to Wang, and he announces they have to go. Outside the mountain, a car speeds very fast beside them, almost crushing them, so they curse at it. While on the train, Xiaoyu says she was expecting Sun Rong to be depressed with her family's bankruptcy, but she was surprised to see her worker bee spirit. Chen says they might be bankrupt, but they still have the Magic Mountain. Their attention diverts to the TV showing news about Tang Finance taking over the Sun Company, and that the takeover ceremony will happen in Matte Flower Fruit. The news broadcaster says the two heirs will sign a bloodborne agreement. Chen flares up, and he questions why Sun Rong will sign a bloodborne agreement with Tang Jingze. Guo wonders how it occurred when they just left the place. Wang informs them that he saw the Tang logo on the limo that almost hit them before, so the Sun's family was forced to sign the agreement. They decide to set off to the mountain. Before the ceremony, Mr. Tang and Mr. Sun speak together. Mr. Tang tells him they will plant chives in the Water Curtain Cave, which grows all year round, instead of the immortal herbs that take 100 years to grow. Wang and his crew arrive at the entrance of the mountain, but Xiaobei notifies the other members of Tang's crew about their arrival. The red-haired member stops them, saying he doesn't know how they won the competition, but he wants revenge. Chen and Guo charge to attack them, but they get stuck in Xiaobei's web. and two Faction 59 boys try to attack them. Xiaoyu dispels the web magic while she charges to attack Xiaobei on the tree. Guo and Chen defeat them successfully, while Wang runs to save Sun Rong. At the party, Mr. Tang gives a heartwarming speech about the event and the agreement between the two families that have been holding grudges against each other for years. Tang signs his agreement, and he urges Sun Rong, who is contemplating, to sign hers. Wang suddenly runs towards the podium and pulls her away. While on the stairs, Mr. Sun calls out to his daughter, reminding her of her promise. Sun Rong apologizes to Wang and the crew for stressing to rescue her. She explains that signing the agreement is not her free will, but she is doing it to save the company because Mr. Tang offered to invest in their company. Sun Rong walks back inside while Tang trades words with Wang and everyone. On their way back, Tang notices a force in the water deposit, so he enters to discover a star worm. Go explains that the worm is a fearful demon that sucks the Earth's spiritual veins, and Wang pulls it out. Richmond detects that the star worm has been discovered, but he says it is too late because it has sucked all the mountain's spiritual veins. He expresses his shock when he realizes the spiritual energy is flowing back. Wang and the crew all drag the star worm out together, and Wang orders it to return the sun's family's spiritual vein. A great sensation occurs, and the star worm exhausts in flames, causing the Sun's family stock to rise immediately. At the ceremony, just as Sun Rong tries to sign, she sees the explosion outside the cave, and suddenly, the waterfall starts flowing backward. Mr. Tang tries to distract their attention, but his assistant gives him bad news that their company has triggered a circuit breaker on the stock market, while Sun receives good news for their company's stock. Zhuo Yi arrives with a warrant to arrest the Tang family for colluding with the demon world. The Sun employees gather around Sun to care for her. She asks for Wang, and she sees him with the sachet, causing her to smile. The scene opens with a ceremony organized for the Songhai Spiritual Sword Art Assembly, where students from all major factions in the district are present to exhibit their unique sword skills. The host invites Zhuo Yi, Instructor C, and two sword dance team members, Ling Yuan and Hanser. Hanser and Ling Yuan inform the audience that in ancient times, sword cultivation took power as the sole standard to rank spiritual swords. But now, in peace times, they do not have to contest with their swords anymore, so the program is an opportunity to find the art and beauty in swords. The host announces the prizes for an interactive audience, and he invites Sun Rong as the first practitioner, calling her the most talked about student. The screen displays her, and an evil man, Richmond, smirks at her. Sun Rong introduces herself to the Swordmasters. Instructor Z calls her Miss Bankruptcy, and she questions what she intends to do since most of her swords were damaged at the competition, and she sacrificed her sword spirit to win. Sun Rong tells her she has been training hard since then, and she wants the instructor to give her enlightenment on her skills. Zhuo Yi commends Sun Rong for being high-spirited, and he questions what she intends to show them. Sun Rong replies that she would be performing the sun's ancestral sword skill, the Ocean Dance. She commences her sword dance, and the students applaud while the instructors commend her for controlling more than a dozen swords. Sun Rong showcases a good sword dancing skill until Richmond sends some spiritual thorns that change the direction of her swords. It charges toward Instructor Xi and the other instructor. Mr. Wang quickly saves her, but Liang Liuyue jealously appears to stop him from holding her further. Zhuo Yi informs her that it is dangerous to control many swords simultaneously, so she should manage what she can while the students backlash her for her awful display in their words. Xiaoyu and Wang Ling walk up to her after her display. She apologizes for her faulty performance, saying she can't achieve anything without her sword spirit. Xiaoyu urges her to bring her sword to the shop so she can calibrate it for her, and she thanks her. Wang consoles her by saying it is not her fault. The operations team records a mass increase in the ratings on the webcast because of the incident that occurred with Sun Rong, and the team member expresses her disbelief because she wasn't expecting a huge turnout. The host, hearing this news, instructs them to continue the webcast, and he calls the incident a blessing in disguise. The students continue to drop biased ratings about Sun Rong on the webcast, and Wang reads them. The host invites the next practitioners, who turn out to be Guo Hao and Chen. One of the Swordmasters questions if they intend to challenge themselves, but Chen Chao declines, explaining they are just there for a little show. Guo Hao says they have a friend who is under a lot of pressure and is experiencing a tough time, but she smiles regardless. Chen Chao apologizes for being unable to help her, but he looks at Sun Rong and tells her they want to present the show for her, so she can be happy. The Swordmaster questions what they intend to display, and Chen Chao, dramatic as always, mentions that they are displaying the skill of snatching a sword with bare hands. Instructor Z mocks them for intending to use an old trick, but Chen adds further that he will be summoning the trick blindfolded. He proceeds with the display and summons his sword spirit. Instructor Z mocks him again for summoning an incomplete sword spirit. Guo Hao charges to attack him, but Richmond, still behind the monitors, makes another effect on the system, causing the mighty sword to hit Chen's head intensely. The host tries to make the atmosphere less tense by calling Chen's head the Iron Head, while Guo drags him out of the stage. The operation team records more than 1 million viewers, causing the spiritual energy index to break the platform record. The evil man anticipates collecting enough spiritual energy with his actions. The host invites Yisha Bei, also Xiao Bei from Faction 59, to display her sword skills. She controls thousands of swords, which fascinates the instructors, and Ms. Shi boastfully comments that she is using scientific cultivation, which is a modern way of controlling swords, as opposed to the old ways. Xiao Bei successfully displays her skills without any interception. Chen and Guo arrive back at the seats to meet Sun Rong. Sun Rong expresses her worries, but Guo assures her the doctor has checked him out. Chen questions if she is in a better frame of mind, and she smiles. They question where Lin Xiaoyu and Wang went to. The host introduces Lin Xiaoyu as the last performer of the day. All the students, including Sun Rong, exclaim adorably when they discover her beauty and finesse. Sun Rong comments that she looks beautiful without her glasses. Xiaoyu begins her performance and they all applaud how skillful she is. The students confess that they like her, while some question who she is. She continues her performance, and she lights a tree up in flames until the Richmond decides to showcase his master plan. The tree begins to burn more brightly, causing the students to fear when Xiaoyu circles without control. Sun Rong realizes something is wrong, so she quickly jumps out to save Xiaoyu, relieving the students and instructors. They all applaud their skills, calling it the best stage plan. Meanwhile, the operations team shockingly recorded 1 billion views on their webcast. Richmond appears on the stage and announces that the students' contributions have provided the 1 billion spiritual energy he needs to power his magic. He casts the ultimate world-class control on everyone in the world with the possibility of making them his puppets. He looks at Sun Rong and Zhao Yu and says it is a pity they can't hear his grand scheme. To his surprise, Sun Rong questions who he is. He asks how they escaped his control, and Wang replies that his magic formation lost its effects. Richmond angrily questions how it happened, and Sun Rong explains she used the art of seduction on them. He decides to use violence, but the mini-TV host appears and punches him deep into the sky. Sun Rong thanks the mini-TV for saving her, but Xiaoyu notices there is something different about him. Sun Rong tries to turn the ultimate control, but she finds it difficult to release them. Xiaoyu says the ultimate control is mixed with demon spirits and has taken control of their senses, so they are no longer just puppets, but self-moving evil dummies. The students charge toward Sun Rong and the others. Zhang Liuying, the Shadow Faction boss, is locked in an insulator cage after her last attempt to escape. She tries to seduce the guard into getting her out, but the security guard teases her with the key and tells her she has a naive plan because the insulator cage can control her thoughts, so she can't seduce him. Suddenly, the ultimate control spell consumes them, and they all freeze. The security guard with the key still holds it out, causing Jiang to thank the Supreme Being for making a way out. The trio tries to escape from the evil dummies, but they get blocked. Wang escapes from them with the girls by creating a wind obstruction, but they run toward a dead end. Jinkei suggests that Wang uses the 100% trick of forgetting to break their curses, but Wang declines, saying it will cause impaired intelligence. He decides to use his sword as a flying object for them. Xiaoyu commends him for his skills, while Jinkei complains that he is a magic wear, not a flying sword. They arrive at the top of the building and try to detect the best way to unleash the curse. Sun Rong feels a sensation in her head, so she looks down to check out who is sending signals, but to her surprise, she sees a large number of the dummies climbing up the building with a staircase. She sees a figure with a more glowing sign, and he turns out to be Chen Chao. He charges towards Sun Rong at full speed, and he shouts to Sun Rong that he likes her, but she rejects him, saying she doesn't like him. Chen crashes into the ground, and he stands up to express that his chest is painful. He questions where he is, and they detect the ultimate control on his head has been released. Xiaoyu says the curse broke because he hit his head on the ground, but Sun Rong disagrees. She thinks and discovers the logic is because she rejected him, so his heart felt the pain, therefore releasing him from the ultimate control. She decides to shout at all the other dummies in climbing the ladder that she doesn't like them. They all feel hurt, and the curse breaks off their heads. Sun Rong expresses her happiness because they feel relieved. Chen questions how she would reach out to everyone, and he wonders how long she would keep shouting. Xiao Yu suggests that she would initiate her live stream to tell everyone. Sun Rong tries to activate it, but she discovers there is no connection. Xiao Yu directs their attention towards the tower. They look up to see Jiang Liu Ying standing by it and restricting the connection. Jiang mocks Sun Rong for trying to release the ultimate control too soon, but she says she is too late because she has control of the cell tower. She adds that they have to surrender themselves if they intend to generate a connection from the tower. The students, unable to hear her indistinct words clearly, warn her about the meteor coming down. The meteor showers down and explodes into the tower down to the ground. They ask different questions, wondering about the cause of the meteor. Xiao Yu says the day feels like the doomsday of the human world after experiencing all the calamities. Wang uses his foresight to check the cloud, and he discovers a strange object. Sun Rong laments about the destroyed tower, and Chen suggests they find another one. Sun explains that her family got the contract to build the towers, so the next one is thousands of kilometers away. Wang points to the sky and informs them there is an internet connection in one of the satellites. Chen confirms Wang's words, saying, "The Fort Sky Loop is the biggest communication station in Huaqiu, so they can broadcast to the entire human world from there." Xiao Yu questions how they will get to space, and Wang brings out the ticket prizes that the host offers to give the interactive viewers to get a free one-day tour of the Fort Sky Loop. Wang flies with all of them using his sword, and they express their fear of falling into the midst of the dummies. Jinky complains about bearing a burden too heavy for his age, but Wang promises him 2 packs of crispy noodles. Jinky's mood changes, and he adds more speed. They finally arrive at the space train station, but the dummies are closing in on them faster than expected. Chen Chao tells them the ticket is only for 2, so Sun Rong can go with Wang while they defend them from the dummies. Sun Rong expresses her worries about being overwhelmed by the dummies, but Chen assures her of his strength. Wang pulls her away, and they run into the train, escaping from the dummies, while Chen attacks the dummies outside. While on the train, Sun Rong notices Wang's countenance, and she wonders if he intends to make a confession. Wang informs her he has something to say, and Sun Rong anticipates, but she gets disappointed when he tells her he noticed there was no official at the train station, so Chen and Xiao Yu could have followed them. Sun Rong stares at him disappointedly while replying to him. The train announces their arrival at the Fort Sky Loop. At the fort, Wang connects to the internet for Sun Rong, and she walks out to do her live stream. Sun Rong gives the people a long speech about how she feels. She explains that she had always felt loved by everyone while she was growing up until she started schooling at the faction, and she realized the world didn't revolve around her. Plus, she was not the perfect daughter she thought she was. She worked hard to prove herself and get stronger until her family went bankrupt, which got her depressed and caused her to realize that the things she had taken for granted were valuable. She explains that she wanted to feel loved by everyone, which is why she participated in the Songhai Sword Art Assembly and got the love of everyone. But she was not satisfied. She apologizes to the people that she doesn't need the love of more people, but the love of just one man. The people get released from the ultimate control spell after feeling hurt by her speech. Xiao Yu confirms that Sun Rong has released everyone. Chen spots another meteor coming down. The operation team in the Fort Sky Loop spots the meteor, and they call it a giant flaming rock, about 20 kilometers in diameter, charging toward the human world at high speed. They question if the mass extinction of species is about to commence again. Wang and Sun Rong spot it, and Wang sends his sword toward the flaming rock, causing the rock to dispel its flame into ice. The students go on a practice trip to BP Animations, and their host, Mr. Tang, gives them a breakdown of the company's early project. Chen questions if they will have the opportunity to practice there. He affirms and welcomes them to join if they are animation fans. The host takes them into the animation production room, which is a very rowdy and weird office. He takes them to the company's producer's office, but a lady in distress runs up to him and calls him boss. Mr. Tang introduces her as the company's producer with strong capabilities. He also mentions that she is one of the key employees in the company. Wang Ling tells Mr. Tang that the producer has something to say, so he should listen. The producer explains that the director has run away. Mr. Tang questions why she is just informing him when they are going online soon. The producer replies that he was drawing a storyboard in the retreat, and he suddenly ran off, so they think he was bewitched. Mr. Tang orders her to go find him, but she explains that someone has to be on the production site. Mr. Tang thinks deeply, and he finally smiles at the solution that he got. He informs the practice students that since they are practitioners, they have the chance to practice being a director. Chen expresses his happiness while the producer freaks out, and she begs Mr. Tang to desist from his decision, but he assures her to be calm. He explains that viewers are the best directors, so since the early phases of the work have been done, the only duty left for the producer is content review, so the director will be fine. The producer lies on the floor crying, while Mr. Tang informs the other employees that the practitioners will be the directors since the director has run away. Mr. Tang shows them the key animation section. He explains that an animation season consists of a dozen episodes, and since a director cannot pay attention to every detail in each episode, the conductors oversee individual episodes. The major director will meet with the conductors and will allocate the kuts to key animators who are good at drawing. The students gather around a key animator, and they commend his word. Instead of acknowledging their comments, he boasts and says that is what a key animator does while calling them acting directors. Chen Chao asks him a serious question about the animation, and he replies. The student continues to ask until he runs out of answers to give them. The key animator screams at Chen to shut up, and he says he will present the animation in 24 FPS. He transforms and releases a pen to start drawing. Guo Hao calls it the art of liver bursting. Mr. Tang affirms, saying the animator enlightened his pen to allow the digital pen to draw the animation, and only someone in the golden pill phase can master the skill. Sunrong questions why they don't use the skill often. Mr. Tang explains that the skill can damage the liver, causing the animators to land in the ICU if used excessively. The animator completes his drawing, and he informs them. Chen Chao explains it is not as clear as the other frames they watch, so he questions if he can use 60 FPS. The animator angrily screams at them for stressing him further. The producer asks Mr. Tang what they should do since they do not have 60 FPS. A photographer proposes showing them how they make 60 FPS animation. The photographer explains they use post-composite software to combine the key animations and make the pictures move. Special effects like blur or fireworks like water surfaces are also post-composite jobs, so they cannot work on designs until all the materials are complete. He shows them a 60 FPS design, and they all express their amazement. He says he can go even higher than 60 FPS to 120 FPS or 1200 FPS. The photographer explains some other things and asks Chen if he is satisfied with the response, calling him a frame rate detective. Chen Chao looks thoroughly and discovers another issue again. He expresses his thoughts that computer-made animations don't have souls. The photographer angrily shouts at him, and he tells him to do it if he can. Guo Hao holds him back. Mr. Tang takes them to the art session where they draw scenes and determine the artistic style of a production. He explains using the example of different scenes and how art interprets it. Mr. Wang asks if they have any comments, but the producer kneels and begs him, saying that there is no need for comments because the designer, Mr. Zhu, has been exhausting his liver for over half a year, and he can't hold on for much longer. Mr. Tang listens to her and appreciates his effort. He instructs him to go and get married in his hometown when the episode is over. Suddenly, Mr. Zhu gets shocked and turns to sand. Jinkei tells Wang that the total value of the world's spiritual force is dropping rapidly. The producer, Miss Wang, kneels in tears, saying she can do nothing now because she has lost so many hands. Chen Chao consoles her, and he suggests helping her. He says he has checked the production process during their tour, and they can improvise as the hands she needs. Miss Wang looks at him with incapable eyes, and she says it takes about 30 years to make a qualified key animator. Mr. Tang urges her to give them a chance because they were just like them when they started, and he calls them the future of Huaqiu, so they deserve a chance. He stretches his hand out to her, and she accepts. They commence the drawing, and she gives them the necessary instructions, with everyone having their distinct part of the storyboard. Chen Chao looks at the storyboard, and he freaks out questioning what it is. Miss Wang explains that the directors are mostly busy, so they just scribble things for the key animators. They all struggle with their drawings until Wang uses the art of enlightening spells on all their pens to make them draw what is on their minds. Miss Wang calls it the art of liver bursting, but he disagrees. Miss Wang submits the drive containing their work to the supervisor to modify it, but she deletes the whole folder, saying she can't have such twisted things existing on her computer. Chen Chao expresses his disbelief. They all sit down dejectedly, saying they don't have the talent for animations. Jinka informs his master that the total value of the world's spiritual energy is dropping to zero, and he questions what they will do to prevent the world from getting destroyed. Wang stands up and searches for the director. He finally sees the director, and he returns with him to get the conductors and key animators to work. The students all adore his expertise, and they commend him. Everyone gets back to work, and Wang thanks them for creating a beautiful world. The scene begins with a recap of the incident that occurred while Wang and Sunrong were on the Fort Skyloop. Richmond was responsible for the meteor shower as per the instruction from the Demon King. He realizes that Wang has been the enemy, not the sun descendant, because he has been pretending to be the dog, despite acting like a real wolf. He decides to destroy the world alongside himself. The Demon Counselor tries to stop him, saying they should conquer the human world, not destroy it. The Demon King instructs the Counselor to allow him to do his thing. The Counselor accepts, and Richmond thanks the Demon King. He says he is on it this time, and will try his best not to miss it again, while transforming into a mighty snake hoping to drag the world along when he dies. Wang throws his sword at Richmond, and the meteor scatters into different smaller water-like sections. The Demon King expresses his anger at Richmond's failure, and instructs the counselor to light the dimensional lamps, which he does. On their way back, Sun Rong suggests they hang around the fort sky loop before they leave because it is not easy to come up to the fort. Wang Ling agrees with her, and they return to the top of the fort. Sun Rong detects a strange feeling, and she suddenly realizes they've become three-dimensional while the world outside is still normal. Zhuo Yi summons the predecessors to a meeting, and a white-haired predecessor barges in to scold Zhuo Yi for almost getting him bewitched because he left the retreat. He questions why he didn't call the meeting online, and Zhuo Yi explains that the meteor shower interrupted the network communication in Songhai, so he couldn't reach them. One of the predecessors criticizes the white-haired predecessor for complaining about the retreat when the world is getting destroyed and demons are invading. The white-haired predecessor tells him to send the 7-star squad. Zhuo Yi explains that the 7-star squad is busy evacuating the citizens, so they can't launch an effective counter-strike. Zhuo Yi breaks down his plan to find a powerful practitioner to put him in the formation to function as a battery so they can initiate the thunder and kill the demons. Zhuo Yi informs them that they require massive spiritual energy, but they have lost contact with their #1 world practitioner. The white-haired predecessor says he has enough spiritual energy to give, but Zhuo Yi rejects his offer, saying his status is not high enough to be #1. The white-haired predecessor insists on showing him he is as good as the #1 practitioner. Wang and Sun Rong try to find a way out of the fort skyloop passage. Sun Rong throws her sword to find a path, but the sword completes a loop and reverts to her. She confirms they cannot escape forward or backward. Wang suggests they use the side so he will break through the walls. Sun Rong reminds him that there is space outside the wall. He taps her nose and tells her the guardian light will protect her. Wang breaks through the world only to discover they are in a spatial cycle. Sun Rong, bothered about the situation, questions what they will do. Wang says Jinky could break through the dimensional wall if he was around, but Jinky is still in space after attacking the meteor shower. Jinky laments about being thrown to such a far distance by his master. The Demon King commends the counselor for his wonderful dimensional lamps and how it has helped them trap the enemy, Wang. The counselor boldly says only dimensional spiritual treasures can break his seal, because nothing else can. He informs the Demon King that 30 of his 30-90 dimensional lamps have been knocked out, so he has just 30-60 lamps functioning, but they cannot power the formation to its full function. The Demon Emperor assures him it is just a few lamps, so there will be no harm. He asks after the battle going on in the human world. The demons have invaded the human world, and the 7-star squad is trying their best to defeat them. Zhuo Yi fights with a demon, and he escapes. His team members notify him that he has made the demon more angry. Zhuo Yi communicates with his squad about the doom-breaking formation. They inform him they are almost complete with the setup, but another demon arrives and attacks them, disrupting their communication. The news broadcasts the calamities and invasions going on in the world. Mr. Wang announces to his wife that they have to leave. She cries while asking Wang Ling, but her husband assures her she doesn't have to worry about him, which she agrees with. In the Fort Sky Loop, Sun Rong expresses her worries, and she asks Wang if they will be trapped there for the rest of their lives. She says the world will be destroyed when they eventually leave the fort. Wang displays the control panel and edits their feature to the high modulus mode. Wang sees the human world, and they wonder what is going on. In the world, the demons order the humans to surrender themselves because they have been surrounded, but Zhuo Yi informs them they are the ones that are surrounded. The white-haired predecessors arrive at the doom-breaking formation, and he dispels his spiritual energy to destroy the demons and close the portal. Zhuo Yi instructs the sword to protect him, while he continues. Sun Rong says something is not right, while the Demon Emperor says it is getting interesting. Zhuo Yi suddenly sees a large flame rock descending on them. The predecessor tries to hold it down, but it overweighs and crushes him. The Demon Emperor and the counselor laugh at him. More rocks and demons invade the earth. Sun Rong concludes that everything is finished, but Wang Ling discourages her thoughts, saying that the world can be saved. Wang steps into the lift and brings out the mirror. He explains to Sun Rong that the mirror will help them break the seal because mirrors crash rendering most effectively. Sun Rong raises the mirror, and Wang asks Sun Rong to call out her ocean sword. He utilizes the ocean's particle effect, and the seal breaks off Wang, causing the dimensional lamps to be destroyed. The counselor is shocked at the destruction of his lamp. Wang instructs Sun Rong to stay back while he goes to save the world. Sun says his identity will be exposed, but Wang replies that he doesn't care. Wang charges into the world and destroys one of the rocks. People wonder who he is, but Zhuo Yi recognizes him as his master. Suddenly, Xiao Yu's butterfly image appears and touches Wang. She disappears with him. Xiao Yu's father trained her while she was younger to summon her magic butterfly, but she finds it difficult. Her father encourages her to keep going, but she asks if she is really in the butterfly race because her friends have flown long ago, but she doesn't even have wings. Her father tells her he couldn't fly until he was 10 when his father threw him to the Butterfly Valley. Xiao Yu asks why their grandfather did that, and her father explains that their butterfly race's wings have the magic power of transmission through space, so other demon races have always coveted their powers. He adds that if they cannot escape with their wings and they fall into the enemies, they will face calamities much worse than falling off a cliff. Xiao Yu asks if the demon will get them, but her father assures her he is there with her. Suddenly, they both hear sounds, and they discover they see the flame rocks descending. Xiao Yu's father blocks the attack and flings her into another dimension to keep her safe. She lands in the human day on a rainy night. Xiao Yu, while on the train with Wang, explains that after the demon emperor destroyed the butterfly race, she was raised by her sword spirit sister in the human world. It was the end of the world for her race, but to the demon race, it was routine. She explains that it was all about power for them, conquering the weaker race to gain their spiritual energy, and becoming more powerful to conquer another weaker race. Wang questions why she didn't fight back, and Xiao Yu replies that the demon race is an invulnerable myth where all the demon emperor needs to do is sit on the throne, while his soldiers will bring him the races they have conquered. Wang says they conquered a demon invasion years before, so it should be easy, but Xiao Yu says he will meet him soon so he'll understand better. Back on Earth, Zhuo Yi questions where his master is. They get an interception broadcast message from Sun Rong in the Fort Skyloop. She informs the people they are all trained cultivators, but peacetime has blinded their sight to combat, so the enemy is defeating them because they are not fighting back. She encourages all of them to fight the enemy wherever they are and however they can, because many of them are in the foundation phase and above to protect their home. Sun Rong's speech motivates the people, causing them to gather together and fight. The demon emperor applauds Sun Rong for giving a good speech. He says she is truly a sun descendant, but their actions are just meaningless dying kicks from an insignificant race. He anticipates how long they'll last before they are exhausted with his infinite soldier coming in. The operations team informs Sun Rong that they are surrounded. Xiao Yu appears before the demon emperor's throne with Wang Ling. She tells him she has brought Wang as per their agreement, so the emperor should release her sword spirit sister. The demon counselor forces Xiao Yu to go on her knees, saying a weak being does not deserve to stand before the emperor. He tries to force Wang to go on his knees, but Wang swipes him away with his hands. The demon king laughs intensely, and he stands from his throne, saying he has not left his throne for thousands of years, but he finally finds something interesting to get him up. The demon emperor assumes Wang is the wolf Richmond mentioned, and has been pretending to be a dog. Wang questions if killing him will end the war. The emperor jumps at Wang and asks him for his name, saying he cannot fight with a nameless human. Wang introduces himself as a class elite member of the Songhai faction 60. The Demon King fires at him, but Wang remains untouched, to the Emperor's surprise, and he asks if that's all he can do. The demon soldiers surround Fort Skyloop, and the operations team informs Sun Rong that if they don't destroy the demon carrier, the demon reinforcement will keep coming. Sun Rong thinks deeply, but she suddenly sees the demon carriers getting destroyed, and Jinkei flies back to her. She recognizes him as Wang's sword spirit, and Jinkei commends her for remembering. Sun Rong asks if Wang is in danger, but Jinkei says whoever is trying to fight a battle with his master is in more trouble. At the Demon Kingdom, Wang punches the Emperor heavily, and he falls into the midst of his soldiers. The Emperor questions how the human world has such a powerful practitioner, and they are uninformed. Wang says he could destroy the world if he had a real battle there, but the Demon Kingdom is not his world, so he doesn't mind. The Emperor escapes, saying in terms of speed, Wang can't catch up because he is the king of the universe. Wang chases after him for a while, and they both strike each other in the process. Finally, the Emperor falls into the dungeon where Xiao Yu is trying to free her sword spirit sister. The Emperor says he doesn't understand why the insignificant human race can defeat him when he has defeated races stronger than theirs. Wang explains that Huachu has a civilization of tens of thousands thousands of years. They have had their defeats and suffered the misery of destruction, but they never gave up because the human race will not bow to evil forces like him. The demon emperor disagrees with him, saying the defeat is because of an unreal powerful practitioner like him. The demon counselor appears behind Wang and foolishly pulls his spiritual figure off, saying he has watched him for a while, and he noticed that his spiritual figure gets changed every week, meaning it is his weak spot. The emperor and counselor laugh and claim that victory belongs to the demon race. Suddenly, Wang's spiritual force bursts out and destroys the demon world. The demon carriers and all the demons in the human world get destroyed as well. The whole human world returns to normal, and a light rain falls. The humans celebrate their win, while Wang detects the rain is not an ordinary rain, but a rain of spiritual energy. The operations team announces that the total value of the world's spiritual force keeps rising because the demon world has collapsed due to an explosion. Sunrong questions where Wang is. Xiaoyu and her sword spirit sister arrive in the human world. Wang arrives after her, and she apologizes for betraying the human world. She says he can hurt her, but should let her sword spirit sister go. Wang discards her words and informs her to pick up his phone from his pocket to dial his emergency contact, his father, to bring him a spiritual figure, if she doesn't want the world to get destroyed. The war was recorded as the Demon War II, where the human race broke the myth of the Demon Emperor's vulnerability. Zhuo Yi became the world's hero yet again. The Flower Fruit Curtain Group regained prosperity under Sun Rong's reign. The city's reconstruction healed the trauma of the war in the city. Guo says the way the demons got destroyed halfway through the war was weird. Chen says they defeated them because of their drive to win. Guo wonders who the mysterious practitioner who sunk the demon carrier is. They try to detect his face from the picture, but the light disallows them. Sunrong asks Wang what happened back in the demon world, but he sleeps deeply.